Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto meets Kenshin in the woods at the age of 4, gets adopted and taken on as his apprentice. Before taking him part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Deep inside the forest outside Konoha, little 4-year-old Naruto lay crying about his position in life. The villagers had just gotten done beating and chasing the small child outside the village, all the while calling him demon. Ever since he could remember, little Naruto had always been alone. Nobody had ever shown any form of kindness, except for old man Hokage. Naruto had never known the love of parents, nor the companionship of a friend. All his life Naruto tried to put on a smiling mask to hide his sadness in hopes that if he did not show his despair, the villagers might finally give up their cruelty towards him. It was currently the anniversary of his birth, and for some reason unknown to Naruto, the villagers always seem exceptionally vicious towards him. While little Naruto lied there thinking about the horrible existence known as his life, he heard someone approaching his location, and in fear that it was one of the villagers who had not had their fill of beating the poor boy, he quickly dived into one of the bushes to hide. As he stood in the bushes looking for the approaching person, Naruto saw that it wasn't any of the villagers he recognized and didn't even look native to this region. The stranger was wearing a red and white kimono. He had long red hair tied into a ponytail in the back with the bangs falling to his amber eyes. He stood about 5'2", looked to be in his mid-20s, had a very distinctive X-shaped scar on the left side of his face, and carried a katana strapped to his waist. Naruto then noticed that the man was currently limping and appeared to be covered in blood while holding his side, just as he collapsed. Naruto quickly ran to the fallen man's side to see if he was alright, to find that he was passed out. Naruto tried to think of what he could do to help the man. He first thought to bring him to the hospital in the village, but quickly decided against it in fear of the villagers, thinking he had attacked the man. He then decided to sneak into the village and grab all the medical supplies he had in his apartment he was living in on account of the orphanage, unwilling to take him in, and try to patch up the man to the best of his abilities, which due to the constant beatings he received was quite competent. After bandaging and cleaning up the man, Naruto went to gather some food and water for when he woke up. Upon returning with a canteen of water and a few dead rabbits, Naruto began to start a fire and cook his catch. Later that evening, just as the meat was just finished roasting, Naruto was startled as the man began to stir. The man in question was slowly trying to sit up as he smelled something very appetizing. He noticed that he was not alone, but realized that if whoever he was with wanted him dead, he would have already been killed. Upon fully erecting himself into a cross-legged sitting position and opening his eyes, he realized that his companion was a boy who could be no more than 4 years old. As he surveyed the boy, he immediately noticed his hideous orange-looking jumpsuit. He had blonde spiky hair and black fox-like whisker scars on his cheeks to go along with a fair amount of bruises adorning his face. "Hello," the man groggily said. "Hi," the boy timidly replied. "What's your name?" asked the man, chuckling at the child's shyness. "Uzumaki Naruto," the boy replied little more easily upon confirming that the man was not from around here. "Well, Uzumaki-san, my name is Himura Kenshin, but you can just call me Kenshin," said the man. "Thank you, you can call me just Naruto if you want," the boy said. "Well, Naruto, can you tell me where I just might be? I fear I have been wandering through these woods for a few days in search of some help after acquiring my injuries and appear to be a bit lost." "We're about a few miles outside of Konoha, Mr. Kenshin," Naruto replied. Upon seeing the man sneaking a glance at his canteen, Naruto generously offered it to him, to which gratefully accepted. After taking a drink, Kenshin once again began to speak. "Thank you. Were you the one who took care of me and bandaged me up while I was unconscious?" "Yeah, when I saw you passed out, I went to check on you, and when I saw you were bleeding, I ran back to my apartment to get some medical supplies. After I finished bandaging you up, I went to get some water and collected some food for when you woke up," Naruto replied while going over to the fire to collect the food he had prepared for himself and his companion. "Oh, you're quite competent for someone your age. Would your parents be wondering where you are if you have been looking after me all day?" Kenshin said while accepting the food offered to him by Naruto. "No sir, I have been an orphan since I can remember. I have been told my mother died giving birth to me and that my father died not long after in a battle," Naruto said a little sadly while dropping his head. "I'm sorry, I just thought since you said you got these supplies at your apartment that meant you lived with your parents. Shouldn't you be staying at an orphanage to have someone to look after you, or do you have a guardian you live with?" Kenshin said while eating his food, feeling sorry he brought up the issue of his parents, knowing what it's like since he himself was an orphan at a young age. Once again, no sir. About a year ago I got kicked out of the orphanage because they didn't like me and didn't want me near the other children, so old man Hokage got me set up with an apartment and gives me a little money per week to live on," Naruto once again replied, feeling a little more depressed. Kenshin realized that all he was doing was making the poor boy more depressed with each question he asked, so decided to let the questions drop and eat in silence. Upon finishing his meal, Kenshin tried to stand up but winced and realized that he would not be fit for travel for a good while. Aside from the huge gash he had in his side, he figured he probably had at least a cracked rib, a broken arm, and maybe even a cracked fibula or tibia. With the amount of injuries he had obtained, it would probably be a good month before he could safely return to base and give his report. After dinner that first night, Naruto took it upon himself to help Kenshin. Naruto would spend all day with him and only going back to the village to gather more medical supplies or food in order to get a change from fish and rabbits. He would spend hours getting to know the man he liked to consider his new friend. Naruto found out that, like him, Kenshin was an orphan and that his parents died of cholera when he was 7 and then sold into slavery. He was told that Kenshin was taken in by a man named Sujiro Haiko after the man saved him from a group of thieves who slaughtered the slave caravan he was in at the age of 8. Kenshin spent the next 13 years of his life learning to become a master of the sword art Heitan Mitsurugi Ryu, which was considered to be the ultimate sword style. Kenshin told him that in order for an apprentice to become a master, he must use the ultimate technique, but by doing so it would kill the previous master. Kenshin told Naruto that he could not bring himself to kill the man he had come to consider a father, so he headed to a legendary sword maker to acquire a reverse blade sword unknown to his sensei. When the time came for the final test, he performed the Amakakara Ryu no Hirameki on his sensei, but because of the reverse blade it did not kill his master, but instead only greatly wounded him. After finishing his training, Kenshin enlisted in the rebellion to protect people and deliver justice. He started out as a samurai assassin under Isshin Shishi, but quickly grew in the ranks because of his combat superiority and tactics to the rank of general. He told Naruto that he was sent to Fire Country to assassinate a high-ranking official who was in hiding, but because the mission was rated with such a low probable success rate, due to the man being heavily guarded, he decided to take the mission, knowing that none of his men had the skills to undertake such a job. When he got to the compound where the man was hiding, he quietly snuck into the building, but Kenshin found that the whole mission was a trap to kill him instead when he got to the room the man was staying. As he entered the room, soldiers quickly surrounded him with their blades drawn. The man had said that they had fed misinformation through a mole they had in the rebellion in order to get him to be led into the trap. The only problem was that they did not know the full extent of Kenshin's skill, and because of that it cost them all their lives. Unfortunately for Kenshin, during the battle to escape he was greatly injured. He was able to sneak out of the compound as the alarm rang after taking out the men who had surrounded him. After escaping, he wandered through the woods for a few days in search of help, but finally passing out due to blood loss, and upon waking up, that is when he saw Naruto. As the weeks passed and Naruto had learned about Kenshin's past and how he came to be in his care, to say Naruto was impressed would be an understatement. Naruto could not get it out of his head that maybe if he was strong like Kenshin, that maybe the village would not hate him so much if he could protect it and maybe even find someone who would care about him. As amazing as Kenshin's own story was, he could hardly believe Naruto's. After that first night and finding out about how Naruto too was an orphan, he tried to get him to open up more about his past by telling him about himself. Gradually Kenshin got Naruto to open up, and what he found out about him surprised and disgusted him. He found out that the village Naruto was from was a hidden ninja village and that someday he hoped to become a great ninja in order to gain recognition and to be able to protect those he cared about, even if he did not have anyone to care for right now besides the Hokage who he considered a grandfather. What truly disgusted Kenshin though was upon learning how the villagers took pleasure in beating the poor child and the number of assignation attempts upon his life. Some of the injuries that Naruto said he had obtained over the course of his short life, Kenshin had no idea he could survive. Naruto, to him, the reason he wore such a hideous orange jumpsuit was because it was the only thing a shop owner would sell him, which Kenshin believed was to make fun of Naruto. He was told how on the anniversary of his birth each year the village would form a mob to attack and beat him within an inch of his life. Kenshin could not believe how the child could stay so kind and caring when all he was shown was cruelty and hate. As the month had passed and Kenshin's wounds had healed, he had began to care for the boy and was struggling with a decision he had been contemplating for the past week. When Kenshin finally made his decision, he decided he needed to make the proper arrangements and find out a few answers. After finally healing enough to travel again, Kenshin asked Naruto if he could take him to the Hokage. When Naruto asked why, he replied that he had some things to discuss with the leader of the village. As Naruto and Kenshin walked through the village, Kenshin noticed the hate-filled glares and the mutterings of demon directed at the boy. It took every ounce of will the samurai possessed not to slaughter the whole bunch. Upon arriving at the Hokage building, Naruto led Kenshin up to the Sandame's office. As the Hokage was working on the never-ending flow of paperwork in his office, there was a knock at the door. When the Hokage told them to come in, his face formed a smile seeing the little boy who he had come to consider a grandson, but then became confused upon seeing the stranger he had never seen before, who had a very serious look on his face. Saradab decided to greet Naruto to find out what he and this stranger could want. "Greetings, Naruto, and who might this fellow be?" asked the Hokage. "Hi old man, this is my new friend Himura Kenshin, and he said he would like to talk to you about some things," said Naruto with a smile on his face upon seeing his kind of grandfather. "Well Himura-san, what can I do for you today?" "First, Naruto, can you leave me and Hokage-sama alone to talk in private for a little bit? Here is some money, why don't you go get some of that ramen you tell me you love so much?" Kenshin said while smiling at the boy. "Okay, thanks Kenshin, I'll wait outside until you're done after I finish eating," Naruto replied, smiling at the prospect of eating his favorite food in the world and then running out the door. After hearing the door close, Kenshin redirected his attention back to the Hokage and his serious expression returned to his face. "Hokage-sama, the reason I am here today is to tell you I would like to request permission to adopt Naruto and take him on as my apprentice." Sarada was extremely shocked, not expecting something like this at all, but hit it with a narrowed questioning look. "And why Himura-san would you like to adopt Naruto into your care and take him as your apprentice if I may ask?" "Well Hokage-sama, after getting to know and talking with Naruto this past month, I have learned a great deal about the hardships he has faced, ones that I fear if they continue, he will lose the kind and caring attitude he somehow still possesses." Kenshin relied with a soft look, remembering everything Naruto had told him. Sarada knew what Kenshin was referring to and could not hide the sadness that appeared on his face. Sarada could not help but feel partly responsible for the treatment Naruto had undergone throughout his life. Before Naruto's father Arashi Kazuma, the Yadaime, sealed the Kyuubi inside of his newborn son Naruto, he had asked Sarada to make sure the village saw Naruto as a hero for saving Konoha and for him to look after Naruto after he was gone. Unfortunately, the council did not see Naruto as a hero, but instead as the demon Kyuubi reincarnated. Sarutobi could not tell them who Naruto's father was in fear that Arashi's enemies would find out and try to kill the child. So Sarada did the best thing he could, he passed a decree that no one was to speak of the Kyuubi sealing on penalty of death. He could not adopt little Naruto because the council would see it as favoritism against the rest of the village and would be voted out of office, and then he would not be able to protect Naruto from the council, who would probably elect one of themselves and then order the child killed. So Sarada tried to help Naruto whenever he could to small degrees. He set Naruto up with his apartment after he was kicked out of the orphanage, he ordered the Anbu to stop any assassination attempts on the boy's life, and he gave him a weekly allowance to live on until he would become a genin of the village, which at that time he would be able to support himself. After thinking over his thoughts on Naruto, Sarada returned his attention to the man who wished to adopt Naruto. "Yes, I know Himura-san of what you speak, but I fear that the council would not allow the boy to leave the village," Sarada replied with a sigh. This just confirmed Kenshin's suspicion that there was something going on with Naruto. "Hokage-sama, I must ask you why the council would not allow a boy to leave the village, and if it has anything to do with the way the villagers look at and treat the boy," Kenshin said, with a suspicious look. The Hokage knew there would be no way to get around telling the man the truth about Naruto's past. As Sarada told Kenshin about the Kyuubi and what happened, Kenshin began to see how all the pieces began to fit together. Though thanks to this information Kenshin thought up an idea. "Hokage-sama, what if you told the council that you were having the boy sent away to keep him from causing harm to the village until he was 11 and returned to attend the academy to become a genin? That way the council would not have to see him, and when he returns to become a genin, he would be under your military command. That would alleviate their fear of control on him and would allow him to grow up away from their hatred," Kenshin said with a smile. As Kenshin explained his plan, Sarutobi's smile began to grow until he was finished. "I believe Himura-san that plan just might work, but I must ask you, what did you mean when you first said that you wished to take him on as your apprentice?" "Well sir, you see I am a samurai by profession in the army back where I'm from, and after finding out Naruto's dream to become strong enough to become a great ninja and to be able to protect anyone he comes to care for, I thought it would help if I taught him how to fight with a sword, and then when he returns he could learn his ninja techniques." Kenshin replied, but not willing to let the old man know that he was actually a master of the legendary Heitan Mitsurugi Ryu, or that he was actually a general in the back home. Sarutobi realized that there was something the man was not telling him, but did not feel any malicious intent, so decided to let it drop. "Well Himura-san, I cannot see any fault with your plan, nor do I think you seek Naruto any ill will. If you would like to adopt Naruto and take him as your apprentice, I would be willing, but it would have to be up to Naruto. Have you talked to him about this yet?" "No sir, I wanted to make sure it was possible before possibly getting his hopes up, and I hoped you would answer my questions about Naruto before I went ahead with my decision, which you already did." "Well, why don't we call Naruto in here and see what he thinks about all this, and then we'll make a decision," said the Hokage. After the Hokage called an Anbu to bring Naruto to his office, the boy came walking in. "Naruto, the reason we called you in here is to ask you a question." Going by Naruto's curious expression, the Hokage continued. "You see, Naruto, Himura-san here has asked to adopt you and take you on as his apprentice, but only if you wanted to." Naruto could not believe what he was hearing. No one had ever cared about him except for the Hokage, and here was this man who had only known him for a month and wanted to adopt him as his son. To top it all off, he wanted to take him on as his apprentice and train him to be strong enough to fulfill his dreams. Naruto's eyes began to tear up and he ran to Kenshin, nearly knocking him over as he enveloped his in as big of a hug as he could muster. Sarutobi and Kenshin both just chuckled at the boy's response. "I take that as a yes," Naruto asked the Hokage with a smile on his face, to which the boy could only nod while still holding on to Kenshin's leg in fear that this could only be a dream. "Well, Naruto-kun, I guess this means all we have left to do is fill the paperwork," to which the Hokage groaned, remembering the never-ending pile on his desk, "and then to gather supplies for the trip back home," said Kenshin. So after filing the necessary paperwork, informing the council, to which they were ecstatic to be rid of the demon for a few years, and finally saying goodbye to the Hokage, Naruto and Kenshin left the Hokage building to gather supplies for the long trip back to Kenshin's and now Naruto's home. Upon reaching the gate to the village, Naruto took one last look at the place he had called home since he was born and walked out with his new father and teacher. After leaving the village, Naruto and Kenshin spent the next few days talking about various things. Naruto told Kenshin some more about his likes and dislikes, a little more about his dreams, and since Kenshin asked a little more about the treatment he suffered in the village. While Naruto talked mainly about himself, Kenshin told him about the type of training he would be undergoing, what life would be like once they returned to Rebel headquarters, and what his expectations of Naruto were. Kenshin told Naruto that before he starts to learn the heightened Mitsurugi Ryu, there were a few things he needed to know about it. He told him that the sword style was also known as Flying Heaven Honorable Sword Style that pits one man against many. As he had already told Naruto, there is usually only one master and one apprentice to this sword style, but because of the previously mentioned reason there was now two masters alive, but because Kenshin became a master, his sensei swore he would never teach another and that the responsibility of passing on the knowledge fell to Kenshin. Kenshin, however, refused to accept the title of Haiko Sajuro and the cloak that came with it, saying that the name was stupid and the cloak looked ridiculous, much to his sensei's protest. Kenshin told Naruto how the philosophy behind the art was to protect those around him by any means necessary, including lethal force. The key behind the style included two parts. The first was incredible speed and precision that usually bring down foes in one strike. The second was read techniques at an incredible pace and be able to read emotions to predict your opponent's next move. By combining these two aspects you can subdue your opponent before they ever act. To add to teaching Naruto heightened Mitsurugi Ryu, Kenshin also told him that he also intended to teach him Batajutsu, which was the art of drawing your sword as you killed your enemy. After spending a few days explaining his sword style, Kenshin began to explain what life would be like once they returned to the base. He told Naruto how he would be spending most of the time training Naruto whenever he wasn't in an officer's meeting or out on a mission. He told him how once he became proficient with a sword he would begin undertaking missions himself and possible move up in the ranks of the rebellion. Kenshin told Naruto how when they were alone they could be informal, but in the presence of others they must be formal, and that he must obey his orders without question until they are once again alone. This is how the weeks went by as they traveled. They ran into a few bandits along the way, but they were quickly dispatched by Kenshin without even trying, much to the amazement of Naruto. When the two finally arrived at the base, they were quickly greeted by a man who snapped to attention upon seeing Kenshin. "Amura-sama, it is good to see you. We feared when you did not return that something had gone wrong. Your fellow generals will glad to see you. Shall I escort you to them?" the man asked, not even noticing Naruto. "Yes, Lieutenant, I have much to discuss with them," replied Kenshin in a serious tone as he followed the man to the main meeting room with Naruto right behind. Upon arriving to the room, the man left Kenshin and Naruto to wait on the other generals. "Okay, Naruto, me and my peers have a few things to discuss, so I need you to be patient until we're finished," Kenshin said, to which the boy nodded, a little uncomfortable being in a new place. After the generals assembled and Kenshin gave his report explaining how the mission was a trap and how he had a new apprentice, Kenshin took Naruto to the building where they would call home possibly for the next 7 years. The next day Kenshin allowed Naruto to wander around to get to know the base and meet people. After walking around for a while, Naruto began to get bored and decided to check outside the base a little, even though Kenshin told him to make sure he stayed within the confines of the base. As he was walking around, Naruto began to get the feeling he was being watched. He started walking back to the safety of the base, but when he thought he heard someone behind him, he looked back to see a man bringing his sword down to slice into him. Naruto tried to dive out of the way, but still ended up getting slashed in the arm, spraying blood all over his orange jumpsuit. Naruto quickly jumped up and started running for the base, shouting for help, but his speed was no match for the man with the sword. Just as Naruto was about to the base, the man stabbed the sword through to his chest. Naruto stopped in mid-step and looked down to see the sword protruding from his chest covered in blood. Naruto's eyes began to blur and become lightheaded from blood loss. The man then yanked his sword back from Naruto's chest, causing the boy to fall down. Just as his world began to go dark he saw his new Otu-chan running towards him, blade drawn to attack the man he had just stabbed him. Naruto couldn't help but to think how nice it was to have an Otu-chan, even if it was only for a while right before everything went black. Naruto woke up to the sound of dripping water and a low growl. "How my head, where am I?" thought Naruto. As he looked around he saw that he was in some dark corridor with many pipes. Naruto followed the corridor to the source of the growl, where he found a huge red fox with menacing eyes staring at him from behind the huge set of bars. He timidly approached to get a better look at the fox when it spoke. "Hello mortal, it's about time that we meet," said the fox in a low growling voice. To say Naruto was scared shitless would be the understatement of his life. "Oh man, today just isn't my day. First I get stabbed through the chest and now I'm face to face with some giant fox who is looking at me like some kind of treat. Well human, are you just going to stand there all day and stare at me, or are you going to say something?" Shocked out of his thoughts, Naruto asked, "Am I dead?" to which earned a chuckle from the fox that somehow sounded even more frightful than its growl. "No kid, you are not dead, I am making sure of that. Who are you at? Where am I then if I am not dead? I am the great Kyuubi no Kitsune, ruler of demons, and you are in your mindscape where I am kept prisoner," answered the Kyuubi with a hint of disgust at the mention of being kept prisoner. "What do you mean prisoner? Why are you locked up inside me?" "What I mean is that 4 years ago on the day of your birth I attacked your village, but that damn yondaime of yours tricked me by sacrificing his life in order to seal me within you," the Kyuubi replied with a growl. Thoroughly confused, Naruto proceeds with his questioning, completely forgetting that he is talking with a giant fox demon that could eat him in one bit if it wasn't behind those bars, which it probably would if given the chance. "Why did you attack the village? What did they do to you?" "They did nothing kid, but what do you expect, I'm a demon, that's what we do. But why attack a whole village just for the fun of it?" Naruto asked, still confused, to which the Kyuubi just sighed, seeing that the boy did not understand. "You just don't get it, do you kid? I'm a demon, your kind are food to us. Just like you would hunt rabbits and go fishing and then eat your catch, that is what I did with your village. I mean look at me, I'm a giant fox demon, I was hungry, I went hunting, I found your village and attacked, it is no different than what you humans do to other animals," said the Kyuubi, trying to make the boy understand in hopes that they may be able to work out a deal. "Okay fox, I can see where you're coming from, but that does not mean I have to like it. I'll let it go for now if you can tell me why I am here after not hearing a word from you for 4 years. Good to see you can see logic kid, and for the reason you are here is quite simple. You see, after the seal was placed on you that trapped me inside, it made sure that I would have no contact with you to make sure I did not corrupt you for my uses while you were still impressionable. When that man stabbed you through the chest and your body started to gradually die, the seal weakened enough for me to bring you here and for me to start pumping my chakra into your body to keep you alive. But if the seal was weakening as I was dying, wouldn't you be free when I was dead?" "No kid, unfortunately for me the seal combined our life forces, so when you die I die, and I personally am not fond of dying," said the Kyuubi with a hint of irritation. "Okay, I get the how, but why did you bring me here?" asked Naruto, completely ignoring the fox's tone. "Now we're getting somewhere. The reason I brought you here is to make a sort of deal. I have come to accept that I am bound to you for all eternity and I have seen your memories and thoughts. What I am offering you is training so you can be the great ninja you dream of being, and in return I want you to rip that paper seal on my cage in half. This will allow me to communicate with you whenever I want and be able to see, feel, touch, smell, and taste everything you do," said the Kyuubi, a little bit hopeful that the boy would accept. "I don't see any harm coming to me from this deal, but what kind of training are we talking about here, and are there any downsides I need to be aware of?" Naruto asked suspiciously. "What I mean by training is that I will teach you how to mold chakra, teach you various forms of jutsu, teach you how to use shinobi weapons. The only downside depends on how you look at it. I will be training you inside your mindscape where I will have the power to control the speed of time compared to the outside world. The so-called downside to this, if that is how you look at it, is as your mind ages here at the speed of the mindscape, so will your body. If I slowed time down here by half, your body would age twice as fast. The reason I don't see it as much of a downside is because you are young enough that this will only help you reach your optimal body performance faster than if you let it occur normally." Naruto thought this over a bit before compiling, finally thinking it didn't sound so bad. "Okay, I can't find any fault in your logic, and this deal sounds like it can only help, but I just want to know, how old are we talking about by the time I return to the village?" "Well, normally we would have about 7 years, at which time you would be 11 when you return to the village, but thanks to the time you will spend in your mindscape I would say you will need an additional 7 years, making you 18 when you return." Yeah, that sounds about right. 18. Are you crazy fox? How the hell am I supposed to go to the academy with a bunch of 11-year-olds while I look like a 19-year-old man? I mean, most shinobi are at least chunin and some genin at that age. "Don't worry so much kid, that is where part of your training comes in. I will be teaching you Jinjutsu, so you will be able to take on the illusion of an 11-year while you spend your time at the academy. You will be so good after I am through with you that only the very best Jinjutsu specialists will be able to spot it, and even then they will have to be looking very hard for it. Fine Fox, but if you try anything funny, well, I don't know what I'll do, but it won't be good. Fine Kit, whatever you say, do we have a deal or not? Asked Kyuubi as it chuckled a bit at the blonde's remark. Thinking things over one last time, Naruto walked over to the seal and ripped it in half. Deal. Naruto gradually awoke to the bright lights and white walls of what he suspected to be a hospital room. No one was in the room when he awoke, so he just lied there thinking. The last thing he remembered was ripping the seal in half on the Kyuubi's cage and then waking up here. Was it all just a dream, thought Naruto. No kid, it was not just a dream, it was definitely real, and now we have. I guess it was too much hope for that it wasn't real, huh? Oh well, what did you want, Fox? Well, first you can stop calling me Fox and actually call me by my name, said Kyuubi with a hint of agitation in its voice. Sure thing, Fox, just as soon as you stop calling me Kid, Naruto replied with amusement. You're going to be making things difficult, aren't you, Kid? Kyuubi said with a sigh. Sure, I'm Fox now, what did you want? I'm sure you did not just want to chat, said Naruto, all the while giving a mental smirk. I wanted to discuss with you how we are going to go about your training. What do you mean how we are going about my training? What I mean is how we are going to go about combining your training in the real world with that Kenshin guy and the training you will be doing in here with me. Like I said, you will be spending 7 years with Kenshin and 8 years with me. The problem is your body would not be able to handle a full 7 years worth of growth all at once, so we are going to need to mix the time we spend in real time with that of the mindscape. Okay, then what do you propose? I think we should alternate days training in the mindscape with days in the real world, that way we do not strain your body's growth too much. I don't know what that man is planning on teaching you or he plans to go about your training, but I want to start you off on learning about chakra, then you will start to learn how to mold it, after that we'll work on you control. And so Kyuubi continued to list out the Naruto's future training plan, which he eventually tuned out and began thinking about other more interesting things. Man, I could sure go for a cup of ramen right about now. I wonder if that Fox is just about done yet. I've never known anything that could go on talking so much. Did the Fox just say something? Hey kid, did you get that? Huh, oh you loud and clear, Fox. You didn't listen to a word I said, did you? Sorry, not really, said Naruto with a mental chuckle causing the Fox to sweat drop. What were you doing the whole time I was explaining your training? Kyuubi asked a little bit agitated. Thinking about ramen, replied Naruto like it was nothing, which caused the Fox to face plant. Well, to summarize everything, I am going to teach you a lot, but it will be a while until you learn any jutsus, which caused Naruto to frown. What do you mean I won't be learning any jutsus for a while? How long we talking here? Kid, you have to learn the basics first before you learn to do jutsu, and I want to get your chakra control down before I teach you any moves, cause with the amount of chakra you are likely to possess having me inside you, you will probably have quite a hard time controlling it all without wasting a good deal of it. As Kyuubi finished explaining to Naruto the importance of the basics, which he wasn't even paying attention to, the door was slowly pushed open to reveal Kenshin walking in with smile on his face upon seeing Naruto awake and looking well. Hello Naruto, I'm glad to see you're looking better, you gave me quite a scare, I honestly don't know how you survived, said Kenshin with a dark look upon his face upon remembering the man that attacked his pupil. Sorry sensei, I'll try not to get stabbed again. It wasn't that much fun the first, replied Naruto, scratching the back of his head, having the grace to at least look a little sorry. Well, that's good to hear. Now why don't you tell me how you're feeling and if you have any idea how you healed so fast from what should have been a fatal wound. I actually feel completely fine. As for how I'm healed, I need to ask you a question first. What exactly did the Hokage tell you while you two were alone? Naruto asked. We talked about a few things, but why don't you tell me what you're referring to, replied Kenshin, suspecting where this conversation was heading. What I'm talking about is if he told you about what really happened when the Kyuubi attacked my village. Naruto said, looking at the floor, hoping Kenshin did not see him the same way the villagers did upon finding out. Yes, the Hokage told me the whole story, but what I want to know is how you found out and how this relates to you being healed, Kenshin asked with a curious look, unable to figure out how Naruto found out this information. It's kind of a long story, but after I got stabbed, and so Naruto told Kenshin about his meeting with the Kyuubi and the deal he made with it. As Kenshin listened to Naruto's impressive tale, he could not help but see how Naruto getting stabbed may have been a good thing, no matter how much he disliked it. After Naruto finished his tale, Kenshin stated, if what you and Kyuubi said is true, then I believe you made the right decision, but you may want to keep it quiet that you can talk with the demon. You're probably right, I don't think that would go over well with most people. Now that that's out of the way, I'm here to tell you that the doctor wants to keep you here another night for observation. Then tomorrow you will be free to begin your training with me. But I'm fine now, why do I have to stay in this stupid hospital? I want to start my training today, said Naruto with a whiny voice. Kenshin couldn't help but to smile at the child's antics, knowing that he would be just fine after some rest. You must learn to be patient, Naruto-kun. Besides, from what you told me, you'll have plenty of time for training. Okay, if you say so, sensei, but I expect you to teach me something really cool tomorrow. Whatever you say, Naruto, and by the way, that orange jumpsuit of yours, at which Kenshin shuddered in remembrance of the horrible looking thing, was too damaged to save, so I got you some new clothes. I left them on the chair by the door for when you get ready to leave tomorrow. Meet me outside at the training area at 9 tomorrow morning, said Kenshin as he headed for the door. Thanks, sensei, I'll see you tomorrow, said Naruto as Kenshin closed the door behind him. Tomorrow starts my training. I wonder what I'll be learning, mused Naruto. I don't know, kid, but I suggest you get some rest. I suspect it's going to be a long day. You're probably right. Night, Fox, thought Naruto sleepily. Night, kid, the fox replied quietly. The next day, Kenshin saw Naruto approaching the training grounds right on time. Naruto casually walked up to his sensei and greeted him. Utudo-kun, you, I'm glad to see you wearing your new outfit. It definitely looks a lot better on you than your previous attire. Naruto currently looked like a miniature version of Kenshin, with the only difference being his short spiked blonde hair and his clothes being all black with crimson lining to complement his crimson belt. Thanks, sensei, but it still feels a bit loose, said Naruto, looking slightly uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. By being loose it restricts your motions less, which will help with your training. Okay, if you say so. So what cool fighting moves will you be teaching me today, and where's my sword? Pissed off, Naruto-kun, you will not be getting a sword for quite a while, and then you will only be getting a tachi, a katana-sized wooden sword. Only after I feel you are competent enough with a sword will you receive your own samurai katana. Second, I will first teach you battle tactics and the correct stances to take depending on your enemy's stance and emotions. You need to learn to be able to adapt your attacks based off of your opponents and interpret their next move. After I feel you are ready, you will receive a tachi to begin your sword training. After hearing this, Naruto was greatly disheartened, for it appeared it would be quite some time before he would learn anything, in Naruto's opinion, important. The only thing that kept him from protesting this was the serious look his sensei was giving him. And so the day was spent for Naruto listening to Kenshin's lectures and answering questions based on what he had been taught. Once Naruto returned home from a mentally strenuous day of training and got into bed, Kyuubi contacted Naruto. Hey kid, now that you're home we can now begin the second half of your training. What do you mean, Baka Fox, can't you see I'm exhausted? Naruto answered, a little irritated at being interrupted from going to sleep. That's the point, it will help you with the first part of your training. And how will me practically falling asleep going to help, he stated, still irritated. It will allow you to relax instead of being all energetic like you are during the day. The Kyuubi began not noticing or just not caring about Naruto's irritated state. The first step in your training is to learn to enter your mindscape at will, so we can train further. All you have to do is relax, clear your mind, and will yourself back to my cage. Naruto spent the next half hour trying to enter his mindscape, eventually succeeding. It wasn't too hard considering how exhausted he already was. Once arriving at Kyuubi's cage, the fox began to speak. Welcome back, kid. The first thing I am going to teach you is how this dimension works. In here you are able to create anything you want and make it look however you like, since it is your mind. The only thing I am able to control here is the speed of time. First, I want you to imagine yourself a bed, because although you do not need such things as food or physical rest, while in here your mind still needs a break from a day's use. So I suggest you get some rest, because after you wake up your actual training will begin. Sounds good to me, Fox, said Naruto as he concentrated on creating a nice warm bed to sleep in. He very happy at how easy it was to create and quickly jumped in and went to sleep. The following day in the mindscape, Naruto woke up to the fox telling him to wake up. Glad to see you up, kid. Now why don't you get rid of the bed and pull up a chair so we can begin your schooling in the ways of a shinobi. Before you get excited, this is going to be just like your training with that Kenshin man. It's going to involve me talking a lot and you answering questions to make sure you understand. All Naruto could do was groan and do as he was told. He pulled up his newly created chair and listened to the fox ramble on about the shinobi code and chakra, talking about what it is and how it works. At the end of the day, Naruto was once again mentally exhausted and had a major head from everything he was forced to learn. The fox then told him it was time for him to leave the mindscape and to get some rest in his real bed, because after he awoke the next day he was going to have to repeat the process all over again. 1 year later, 2 for Naruto. Naruto spent all of the previous year learning about tactics, reading your opponent, and judging how to respond to attacks from Kenshin in the real world when his sensei was not off on missions or in officer meetings, planning different attacks on the current government. At the end of the day he would enter his mindscape, rest, and then the Kyuubi would begin its own line of teaching. Naruto learned about how chakra ran through his body like a system of pipes and how it was molded to fuel different types of jutsus. He was also taught what it meant to be a shinobi and what it entailed, such things like how he was going to have to learn to kill, keep a clear head in battle, and the importance of stealth. Over the previous course of the year, Naruto and Kenshin became closer to having a father-son relationship instead of just being sensei-student. As far as Naruto and Kyuubi, well, they had a makeshift friendship annoy the hell out of each other relationship. Neither one had yet succumbed to being the first to call each other by their name, much to each other's enjoyment irritation. After waking up and beginning his regular routine at the break of dawn, Naruto headed out to the training area to meet his sensei. Currently already at the training area was Kenshin, waiting for his student with a smile on his face at the prospect of seeing Naruto's reaction to today's activities. As Naruto reached Kenshin, he was greeted by the man. "Morning Naruto, you're in for a special treat today," Kenshin said, smiling. "Really? What is it, sensei?" replied Naruto with a hopeful expression. To answer Naruto's question, Kenshin picked up a long rectangular case he had hidden behind him and handed it to Naruto. Naruto gratefully accepted the case but looked at his sensei with a curious expression, to which Kenshin just told him to open it. As soon as Naruto saw what was in the case, he quickly looked up at his sensei with joy in his eyes. "You really mean it, Otu-chan?" Naruto asked with hope in his voice and completely disregarding the formal atmosphere they kept while training. "Yes, Naruto-kun. I feel you are finally ready for Itachi, which I will begin to teach you to learn the basics of Kinjutsu with," replied Kenshin, still with a smile on his face, seeing his son's joy. "Thank you, sensei, I will try not to let you down," said Naruto in a formal tone, trying to rein in his emotions so they could quickly begin. "Okay Naruto-kun, for your future lessons you will be learning the structure of the human anatomy and its physiology. This information will be used for you to know where to attack an opponent to either cripple or kill him. Afterwards will we begin your basic training with the sword." After a lengthy synopsis of the human body that day, Kenshin began to instruct the boy in the basics of the sword. "Now Naruto, in the beginning you will be learning the basic moves such as different angles of slashing, stabbing, parrying, and blocking. We will be working on the defensive moves first, then move on to the more offensive. Only after you become competent enough will we combine the two forms to teach you how to duel." Once Naruto finished his training session with Kenshin, he headed back home to resume his lessons with the fox. As soon as he entered the mindscape, he was greeted by a grinning fox. "Well kid, how did you like your new training routine with Kenshin?" Kyuubi had come to calling Naruto's teacher by his first name as it came to respect him due to his power and brutality that Naruto learned his teacher had on the battlefield after talking to a few of Kenshin's comrades. "Yuho, I don't like that smirk the fox is giving me." "It was fine, fox. Now what is on the agenda for today?" asked Naruto with a hint of trepidation. "Don't worry kid, this is a good thing. Today we are also going to start the next phase of your training. To start with, I am going to teach you medical practices to go along with what Kenshin will be teaching you about the body. Afterwards though, I will be teaching you a combination of chakra control and shinobi weapons training. After your medical training you will begin alternating days between learning to control your chakra and how to use the different shinobi weapons such as kunai, shurikens, ect. Is this going to be painful?" Naruto asked worriedly. "Well, from what I hear, chakra exhaustion is definitely not pleasant, and since I will be pushing you to the edge, I would have to say yes. Also, you will not be allowed to borrow any of my chakra, we need to get yours built up first," said the fox, grinning like an idiot. "I really hate you fox," Naruto grumbled as he began his new lessons. "And you kid," the fox chuckled with amusement. 2 years later, 4 for Naruto. Over the course of the past 2 years, 4 for Naruto, Naruto felt he had literally gone through hell and back. Part of the reason for this was because of an unforeseen side effect of Naruto absorbing more of the Kyuubi's chakra. The fox did not find out till after the 2 years were over, but it turned out that its chakra had influenced the boy, much like a fox grows to reach its adult body faster. What this meant was that instead of Naruto growing at twice its normal rate, it actually grew a little more than 4 times the norm. In the end, Kyuubi was able to stop the side effect, but not before the damage was partially done. Kyuubi had wanted to avoid this due to the human body being able to grow much larger than your average fox, which caused the bones and muscles to grow at such a pace that it caused a good deal of pain. It was also bad because his body was now mature than his mind, which caused his hormones to start working before he was ready. Naruto now looked like a 15-year-old boy. Over the years and because of the extreme chakra-induced growth spurt, Naruto had grown his hair out to be almost just like Kenshin's. He had the long ponytail and bangs coming down to his eyes, the only difference being its blonde color, and for some reason it continued to be slightly spiked on the top of his head, not as spiked as a kid, but still spiked a bit. Naruto still wore the same style of outfit he was given that day in the hospital, only his new one was bigger to accommodate his growth. He had yet to put on much muscle, but was slightly taller than Kenshin by about 2 inches, now standing at a height of about 5'6". I looked up Kenshin's height and found out it was only 5'2", and decided to give him 2 extra inches since he was so short. The other reason he felt like hell was Kenshin being even more demanding of him than before. Naruto would spend hours on end learning everything about the human body, and that did include everything, both male and female. I mean, he even got the kid visual aids. Kenshin said he just wanted to be thorough, but Naruto suspected it was just to cause him discomfort whenever he thought he saw his sensei snicker, either that or we got another Kakashi. I wonder if he has any little orange books. Anyways, after he would finish with his studies Kenshin would drive the boy's body to its limit and beyond. Naruto started out practicing just how to unsheath his tachi and how to hold it correctly over and over until it was like breathing for him, but eventually moved on to basic defensive moves such as blocking and parrying. After a few months, Kenshin really wanted to be thorough. Kenshin told Naruto the reason they were going so slow was to help teach him patience and to teach him to control his emotions when frustrated, which with the advice of Kyuubi he grudgingly accepted. Naruto would end up spending almost 6 months on defense. When Kenshin believed he had that down well enough he started Naruto on the basic offensive moves such as slashing and stabbing. He would end up spending even more time on these than the defensive ones. It took him just over 7 months to complete that part of the training. After Naruto had finally finished with both defense and offense individually the real work began. When Kenshin decided Naruto was ready he had him start putting everything he had learned together from the tactics he learned, the anatomy and physiology of the human body, to his most recent offensive training. Naruto knew he wouldn't be able to beat his sensei in a Kenjutsu duel, but he was feeling quite smug about his abilities and thought he could give him a good fight. Oh how wrong he was. Kenshin saw the way Naruto was beginning to become arrogant in his abilities due to how fast he had learned. So he decided that Naruto was in need for a good helping of humble pie. As soon as the match began Naruto didn't know what hit him. One moment he was drawing his sword, the next he was on the ground clutching his stomach. Afterwards Kenshin apologized to Naruto and helped him up, but told him that he just learned one of the most important rules of combat, which was to never overestimate yourself. Naruto later found out that Kenshin had not even used his sword, but instead knocked him in the gut with his sheath. After that day Naruto was a lot humbler and Kenshin went a lot easier on him in order to help teach him the correct way to improve himself. This however did not apply to how hard he worked him though. At the end of the day Naruto would be so sore and tired he would hardly be able to move. As the 2 years passed and Naruto continued to train with Kenshin, so did he with the Kyuubi. Naruto may have thought Kenshin was tough, but that was nothing compared to Kyuubi. If Naruto did not know the fox's life was tied to his, he would have thought it was trying to kill him. During the course of his chakra exercises and his medical training, Kyuubi decided to impart upon Naruto what little knowledge it had on seals, which was not much. It said that knowing the seals it taught him would help later on in his training. Naruto would spend the beginning of his day trying to learn everything the fox had to teach him about healing. Kyuubi may have not been a master in the art since it could heal itself with its chakra, but it had picked up a good deal of knowledge in the 1,000 years it had been around. When Naruto asked why he had to learn all this when the fox would just heal his body for him, the Kyuubi replied that it was not for him and that someday he may need this knowledge to save whoever he may be on a mission with. After Naruto would finish with his medical studies for the day, he would either be instructed on chakra exercises or shinobi weapons training depending on the day. As far as Naruto was concerned weapon training days were much more enjoyable. Although it was rather simple and just required practice that did not make it easy. He would end up spending the rest of his day throwing kunai and shurikens at targets he thought up until he felt his arms were going to fall off. By the end of the 2 years he had deadly accuracy. What really sucked in Naruto's opinion was his chakra training days. He first began with a traditional tree climbing exercise to begin to learn how to focus his chakra. This however would not be as easy as normal. You see, not only did Kyuubi have Naruto learn to walk up a tree, he also him learned to walk up it upside down on his hands, then by doing cartwheels up it alternating between using his hands and feet. Once the fox was sure Naruto had it down, he had him repeat the process on a lake he had Naruto think up. The worst part though did not come till the final half of the 2nd year, when Kyuubi had Naruto begin his chakra training by balancing on razor-sharp blades and eventually leaping from one blade to the next. This ended up causing Naruto to easily gain more than his fair share of puncture wounds by the end of the 2 years. After those 2 years passed Kenshin once again called Naruto to the training grounds, but this time told him to come later that evening and that he had the rest of the day free to do as he wished, which he had not had since that day he was stabbed, definitely not a good day off. Naruto decided to once again wander around the base he had come to call his home, but this time staying within its confines. He had not really had time to make friends or get to know people due to his constant training. Naruto life had become one big cycle of training, eating, and sleeping. The only socializing Naruto got to do was either with Kenshin or Kyuubi when he was training. As the evening came Naruto began to head to the regular training spot, wondering why training for the day had been pushed back so late. When Naruto got there he was shocked. Standing there was his sensei with a serious look on his face, along with all the other officers of the base. Upon seeing this Naruto began to get worried and tried to think if he had done anything wrong. He asked the fox, but it said there was nothing it could think either and was equally curious. What is going on, sensei? Why are all these men? Asked Naruto in a calm tone, not showing his true emotions just like he had been taught. Today, Naruto, is a very important day. Today is the day you will begin your true apprenticeship with me, said Kenshin very seriously. Naruto was not quite sure what he meant since he thought that's what he has been the past 3 years with him. All Naruto could do was wait for Kenshin to continue. Instead of continuing with his speech, Kenshin ordered one of his subordinates over. The man calmly walked over and handed Kenshin what looked like a simple oak case, which he handed over to Naruto. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the top of the case had a beautiful red kitsune with 9 tails engraved on it. After receiving the go-ahead, Naruto opened it, revealing a beautiful new samurai katana along with a matching deep crimson sheath. Its blade appeared razor sharp, the guard was a deep crimson, and the hilt was pitch black with another crimson 9-tailed kitsune engraved upon it. Naruto had to use every ounce of will to keep himself from jumping up and shouting his joy. All that showed was a small grin on his face before he spoke. "Thank you, Himura-sama, I am honored greatly by your gift." Naruto replied almost reverently. "You are welcome, Naruto-san. Now that you have received your blade, I shall begin to teach you the art of Height Mitsurugi Ryu. Over the years you have come to show me that you are now ready," said Kenshin, remaining serious and formal. "Now you are probably wondering why all my fellow officers are here for this event," stated Kenshin, to which Naruto could only nod. "This is because we have an important question to ask you," Kenshin stated once more, causing Naruto to gulp. "I took you on as my apprentice, your only responsibility was to me. Now that we have all seen your improvement and what you are capable of, we would like to ask you if would want to join the rebellion to go along with your apprenticeship. Please think carefully before you respond. Although you would be under my direct chain of command, you would still be of the rank of a new recruit. I am not willing to send you out on any missions or battles I do not feel you are ready for, but the ones I do, you will be expected to kill. What I want to know is if you are ready and willing." Naruto had not expected this and had to stop and think. "What do you think, Fox? Do you think I'm ready for this?" Naruto asked mentally. "What I think does not matter, Kit. Only you can decide if you are ready for this." Kyuubi replied emotionless, then once again becoming silent. After thinking it over a bit more, Naruto spoke up. "Kenshin-sama, I would be honored to serve in the rebellion under your leadership. I understand that I will be expected to kill without hesitation, but the truth is that once I return to my village and become a shinobi, I will then be forced to kill anyway. At least by me doing this now I will gain real combat experience and I will be more accustomed to killing. I trust in your capability of judging what I am ready for." "Very well said, Naruto-san, I am proud at how well you have learned to think before you answer. Now there is just one last thing to tell you," said Kenshin, at which point he smiled. "Tonight we shall have a feast in honor of my favorite apprentice finally joining our ranks," said Kenshin, causing everyone to cheer and approach Naruto, congratulating him on his achievement. "Good job, Kit, you actually didn't sound like an idiot for once," laughed Kyuubi. "And at Fox, tonight I'm going to party till I drop. By the way, I'm canceling training tonight," Naruto told Kyuubi with a mental grin, only earning a Hiram from the Fox. Naruto just laughed and told the Kyuubi it was just upset it could not be party too, which the Fox did not even reply to. That night when Naruto got to the dining hall, he was amazed. He had never eaten in the dining hall since he preferred to eat at home. It was a huge room with rows upon rows of tables, think the size of the Great Hall in the Harry Potter movies without the magical ceiling. By the way, I own no part of Harry Potter, that's all J.K. Rowling. On the tables he saw more food than he had ever seen in one place before, including to his enjoyment and causing the Fox to groan. "Ramen. I will have to thank Kenshin-sensei for remembering to get ramen when I see him. I was kind of hoping, Kit, that you had grown out of your crazy ramen-loving phase," stated Kyuubi with a sigh. "Sorry, Fox, but ain't gonna happen," said Naruto with his trademark grin mentally. "Hey Naruto, come over here, I want you to meet a few people," shouted Kenshin from across the room, waving a sake bottle at him. "Is it just me, Fox, or does sensei look drunk?" asked Naruto disbelievingly. "Kinda looks that way to me," Kit replied Kyuubi in equal disbelief as Naruto walked over there. "Ah, Naruto-kun, I'd like you to meet a few friends of mine," slurred Kenshin. "This man to my right is one of my fellow generals and friend Sato Hajime," Kenshin said, slapping the man on the tall man on the back who looked to be in his lower 30s. He was a tall man standing about 6'2" with an athletic build, wearing a navy blue Japanese suit. He had long black hair tied into a ponytail with long thin bangs coming down his annoyed-looking face. "Why, Megumi, did you have to give him that sake? You know how Kenshin gets when he's drunk?" Sato asked the beautiful woman to his right, who looked to be in her mid-20s. The first thing Naruto noticed was her rather large endowment. She was wearing a magnificent red and white kimono gown, showing more than just a little cleavage. After a second look, Naruto noticed she had a beautiful face, long blonde hair, stood about 5'5" and curves in all the right places. "I'm sorry, Sato, I just kinda forgot," replied the woman, looking slightly embarrassed. "Naruto, the woman next to Sato here is Megumi Amakusa. She is a lieutenant in Sato's forces, and her skill with a sword is just as deadly as she is beautiful. Kenshin said while staring at the woman's chest. Thanks for the gracious introduction, Kenshin, but I have one request. Megumi spoke sweetly. And what is that, my dear? Asked Kenshin, still not averting his eyes from the woman's dot. Stop staring at my chest. Shouted the woman, knocking Kenshin on the back of his head, causing him to fall flat on his face. After Kenshin slowly got up, rubbing the back of his head and muttering an apology, he continued on with his introductions. As I was saying now, the man on my left here is Ieyashi Shinomori. He is the general of the ninja division of our army. Said Kenshin, gesturing to the man still a little shaky from being hit on the head, or maybe it's the alcohol, who knows. The man looked to be in his mid-30s, was wearing a white full-body coat with yellow lining and a flared-out collar, had black hair that just covered his ears and came down to his neck in the back, and had a stoic look on his face, ignoring Kenshin's drunken state. At this point Naruto decided to speak up. So Shinomori-sama, you're a ninja like the ones from my home village? Asked Naruto inquisitively. Please Naruto-san, call me Ieyashi, but to answer your question. No. Unlike the shinobi of your village, we ninja do not utilize chakra. We instead focus mainly on ninja weapons, stealth, and hand-to-hand fighting, replied Ieyashi, looking slightly more friendly upon not having to listen to Kenshin's slurred ramblings. Okay Ieyashi-san, said Naruto, a little crestfallen after thinking he may have found a shinobi like him. Anyways Naruto-kun, the final man I would like to introduce you to is the fourth and last of the generals, my old partner and longtime rival Makoto Shishio. When I first joined the rebellion, Makoto and I were partnered together to take on assassination missions as part of the Ishin Shishi. I would usually take the lead and attract any of the attention, while Makoto would work in the shadows. He has yet to ever beat me in a duel, said Kenshin with a smile, causing Makoto to frown at the last part. Makoto looked to be only slightly older than Kenshin. He had short black hair, had a nice white military uniform on, stood about 5'8", and was the only one to still have their sword on their side. After Naruto greeted each of them, they began to make mindless chit-chat, making comments from Kenshin's drunken state to Naruto's achievement, much to Naruto's embarrassment. As the night wore on, the group gradually broke up to go mingle with other people, even though Naruto decided to stick with Megumi to get to know her better. Though even after all Naruto's attempts to catch the woman's eye, the night proved to be fruitless for him. Deciding to cut his losses, Naruto called it a night and head home after saying goodnight to a few people. He even tried once more with Megumi, offering to walk her home when he saw she was a little tipsy, but she declined, saying thanks and that she would be fine, not even picking up on Naruto's come on. After returning home and having to listen to the fox laugh at him for being shut down, Naruto fell asleep knowing that tomorrow would be an interesting day, beginning his apprenticeship in the sword art of his sensei. The next day at dawn, Naruto woke and began his normal morning routine. As Naruto left to begin his new training with Kenshin, he grabbed his new sword with a smile on his face and headed out the door. Upon arriving at the normal training ground, Naruto found his sensei holding his head and moaning about the evils of alcohol, causing Naruto to laugh, remembering his sensei's actions the night before. This alerted Kenshin to Naruto's presence and greeted him. Morning Naruto-kun, I hope you had a good time last night, asked Kenshin. It was fun, sensei, but it could have ended better, replied Naruto, a little disappointed with how the night ended, causing Kenshin to chuckle. Ah yes, I remember your attempts with Megumi-chan last night. You're lucky she did not notice your attempts, or you would probably have gotten hit on the back of the head like me. Kenshin said, still chuckling. Oh well, you're probably right, sensei. Anyways, what do you say we get started, said Naruto, trying to redirect the conversation away from his failure last night. As you wish, Naruto-kun. Now that you have shown you have mastered the basics, I will begin to tech you more advanced forms to fight with, including my personal style of Heighten Mitsurugi Ryu and its sub-art Batajutsu. Your training from here on out will be much different from what you are used to. You will begin your physical training to increase your speed to go along with the new techniques you shall learn. You will also no longer have lectures to listen to, but instead spend more time refining your ability with the sword. You have probably already noticed that it weighs more than your old Tachi, and it will take you a while to get used to the weight. Because you will no longer be having academic lessons with me, you will also have more free time to spend however you like later on in the day. We will usually only spend the mornings together training, then you will be free to do as you like, be it training more by yourself or socializing with your fellow comrades around the base, which I greatly recommend since you are now a member of the rebellion. You will be spending much time together with these people on missions and on the battlefield, and I suggest you get to know them better in order to work more smoothly with them, said Kenshi. As you wish, sensei. What shall we begin with first? Asked Naruto. First I shall demonstrate the first technique of the Heighten Mitsurugi you shall learn while you refine your skills, said Kenshin, stepping away from Naruto and heading towards a practice dummy. This technique is called Heighten Mitsurugi Ryutsusen, which is also one of my personal favorites. The Ryutsusen is a sword drop technique delivered from above, targeting the crown of the head or the shoulder of the adversary, Kenshin said. Upon finishing his speech, Kenshin launched himself into the air, unsheathing his katana and bringing it down upon the crown of the dummy's head, cleanly slicing it in two. The key to this technique lays in the height gain from the user's jump and the free fall, which is applied to the sword to multiply the force of the sword stroke. Kenshin said, walking back to the wide-eyed Naruto. Naruto quickly got himself back under control and tried the new technique on another training dummy, only to fail miserably. Do not feel bad, Naruto. In order to master all aspects of the height Mitsurugi Ryu takes many years, much longer than you shall spend with me. This is why while you are here I will try to teach you as much as I can and show you everything I can. When it is time for you to leave me I will give you certain scrolls detailing my techniques so that you may continue to learn on your own. Kenshin said, trying to make Naruto feel better. Naruto spent the rest of that morning with Kenshin between learning how his physical training would proceed, trying to learn the new technique, and sparing to refine his skills. After the morning was over and Kenshin had left, Naruto stayed behind, deciding to spend the rest of the day on additional training since he was still getting used to the new weight of his blade and wanting to learn the new technique sooner. As the evening was getting late, Naruto headed home and to bed so that he could resume his training with Kyuubi, which he had noticed had been eerily silent all day. As Naruto arrived in front of Kyuubi's cage, he found the huge fox waiting for him like normal. For some reason though, Naruto could not help but think the fox looked slightly nervous and distracted, it didn't even seem to notice him. Deciding he must be mistaken, Naruto spoke up. "So Fox, what are our plans for today?" said Naruto, shocking Kyuubi out of its thoughts and alerting it to his presence. Kyuubi quickly regained its composure and replied. "Today, kid, we shall begin your physical training to go along with your physical training with Kenshin. This is where those seals I taught you will come into play like I said they would. I want you to draw that gravity seal you learned onto your chest," said Kyuubi, which Naruto complied. "Good, now I want you to channel some of your chakra into the seal and see what happens," said Kyuubi with a hint of a smile. Not quite sure where the fox was going with this, Naruto once again calmly nonetheless. Upon channeling his chakra though, Naruto quickly crashed into the floor, creating a crater 3 meters wide and causing him to feel like he had broken every bone in his body. This immediately earned a loud laugh from Kyuubi. Wiping tears of amusement from its eyes with its paw, Kyuubi spoke up. "Okay kid, now that I got my good laugh for today out of the way, why don't you try reducing the amount of chakra you put into the seal until you can stand," Kyuubi said, still chuckling a little and using a bit of its chakra to heal some of Naruto's injuries. Once Naruto reduced the amount of chakra into the seal, he shakily got up, straining a little under the new weight exerted upon him. "You know, Fox, you could have warned me ahead of time," said Naruto with fake irritation. You see, over the years he and Kyuubi had grown to enjoy messing with each other and Naruto knew what the fox did was only in good fun, and even though he would not admit it to the fox, Naruto too thought it was a little funny. "Yes, I could have, kid, but then it would not have been as funny seeing you once again going overboard with your chakra. Anyways though, I want you from here on out to constantly keep that seal active, and when you return to the real world, I want you to redo the seal there also. I will leave it up to you to decide how much additional weight you can stand, since it is your responsibility to become stronger," said Kyuubi, but becoming once again a little nervous, which Naruto thought he saw but shrugged off. "Now I will tell you about the second part of your training that I now feel you are ready for. Starting today you will finally begin to learn different jutsu," said Kyuubi, growing more nervous, but this time Naruto didn't even notice due to his excitement at the prospect of finally learning jutsus. "This however will require me to transform into my human form so that I may demonstrate the different jutsus and show you the proper hand signs," Kyuubi said, nervous at the idea of Naruto seeing its human form. This reason for this was simple. In over 1,000 years Kyuubi had not once shown a mortal its human form and had no idea what the young man's reaction would be, whom it had come to consider the only friend it had ever had. Kyuubi did not know when its feelings for Naruto had become to change from contempt to friendship, but it now knew that in the 1,000 years it had come to be alive, it had never valued the opinion of someone so much as the young man that now stood before it. The very prospect of him reacting negatively to its appearance would be devastating. Kyuubi knew how magnificent and it looked in its fox form due to people's reactions to seeing it over the years, but since it had never shown any human what its human form looked like, it had no idea what to think of it. As far as Naruto, well, he had not even known that the fox had a human form. He tried to imagine what it looked like and the best he could think of was some huge man covered in orange fur, wearing thick armor, bulging muscles, having 9 massive tails with razor-sharp fur and razor-sharp claws. This image however did not help him at all when the Kyuubi began to change. After finishing its transformation, Naruto was completely thrown for a loop, gape at the form before him. In all of his wildest dreams he would have never thought the fox would look like this. The only thing that remotely matched the previous image he had of what the fox would look like was its 9 tails, and even they were not what he expected. Standing there before him was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She had long flowing red hair, a beautiful slender face with red eyes, soft full lips, and high cheekbones. She had a rather voluptuous and endowed athletic figure standing about 5'8", wearing a boastful red kimono gown. Her body was not covered in fur at all from what he could see, her nails were perfectly manicured and non-razor-like and looked completely human, with the exception of in her 9, long, red, feminine-looking, fur-covered tails that looked incredibly soft and had little white tips on the end. Naruto was so shocked that he only was able to process the most obvious thing he could tell and uttered the first thing that came to his mind. You're a female," Naruto said in disbelief. This was a huge mistake on Naruto's part and seemed to only earn him the newly revealed female's anger. "Of course I'm female, what did you expect?" shouted Kyuubi, voice full of anger, then turning away from the young man to hide the hurt look on her face, but not before Naruto caught it. Realizing that he had hurt the women's feelings with his rather blatant statement, Naruto quickly got his shock under control and apologized. "I'm sorry Kyuubi-chan, I was just so shocked since you always talked with such a deep voice when in your fox form that I was a little taken aback and reacted foolishly. Please forgive me," said Naruto with voice full of remorse, not even realizing he had called her Kyuubi-chan. This slip-up however did not go unnoticed by Kyuubi and caused her to smile upon actually hearing that Naruto thought of her as a friend, whether it was intentional or not. After regaining her composure, Kyuubi turned back around. "It's okay Naruto-kun, you don't have to apologize. I guess it is a little my fault since I do try to hide my being a female to others," said Kyuubi, forgiving the blonde and purposefully calling him Naruto-kun in order to let him know that she thought of him as a friend too. This statement however confused the blonde. "Why would you want others not to know you're female though?" asked Naruto. "The answer is simple. Do you really think people would really be as afraid of me if they knew I was a woman? Do you know how much harder it would be to earn others' respect if they knew I was female?" asked Kyuubi with anger, thinking of how sexist society is. "I guess you're right, but I would still like to apologize once again for my reaction. I just want you to know I still respect you just as much I did before I knew you were a woman." Kyuubi couldn't help but smile at this. She can't help but being happy that her fears were unjustified and that he didn't think any less of her. She should have known that Naruto would be her friend no matter what. "Thank you Naruto-kun, but like I said there is no need to apologize. Why don't we just begin our training for today?" said Kyuubi, still feeling very happy. "Okay Kyuubi-chan, what do you want to teach me first?" asked Naruto, relieved that she did not still feel angry at him. "Well, in the beginning I will instruct you in the basic jutsus you should know that you would learn in the academy. After you have mastered these I will begin to teach different jutsus I have picked up in my travels while fighting shinobi from different villages. I start out by teaching you lower leveled ones, but as you grow accustomed to using these, I will gradually raise the level of the jutsus I teach you. This will give you a wider elemental range of jutsus than most shinobi, with the exception for Nukekinens, since most shinobi belonging to a village only have experience with their village's element specialization. Now why don't you get some rest and when you wake up we'll begin your new training," Kyuubi said in a friendly tone. Although Kyuubi had forgiven him, Naruto still felt kind of bad for the way he reacted, especially after all the help Kyuubi had given him and wanted some way to repay her. After a bit of thinking as he got in the bag he had just mentally created, it hit him and he turned around to face Kyuubi once more. "Kyuubi-chan, I have one quick question before I go to bed," Naruto said, not giving away what he was thinking. "What is it Naruto-kun?" asked Kyuubi. "Well, when I first came here you said that I could create anything I wanted in here, but you also said I could make it look however I wanted, was that true?" Naruto asked with a bit of hope in his voice. "Yes, why do you ask?" replied Kyuubi, not quite sure where Naruto was going with this. Naruto just smiled and said, "I know you already forgave me for the way I acted, but I also wanted to do something for you as a way of saying thank you for everything you have done for me." Naruto then closed his eyes and concentrated. When he opened them once more the inside of Kyuubi's cage had changed. Instead of just being some huge dark and dirty cell, it now looked like the inside of a luxurious penthouse suite. Inside and behind the bars that still remained due to the half seal that remained on them was a large training room Kyuubi could use to demonstrate the different jutsus it would be teaching. In the room directly back was a massive master bedroom, complete with a fluffy 4-poster king-size bed and master bathroom that had a huge bathtub with scented oils and lotions. To the right of the training room was a room that came with a sauna and a huge hot tub. Finally, to the training room's left was a complete kitchen stocked with everything you could think of, just because you did not need to eat, while in the mindscape did not make food endless enjoying. After he finished his work, Naruto told Kyuubi to go check it out and let him know what she thought. When Kyuubi was done seeing everything Naruto had created for her, she wanted nothing more than to envelope him in a huge hug, but because of the bars keeping her from him, she just had to settle on a deep heartfelt thanks, which Naruto waved off saying it was the least he could do. After Naruto went to bed, Kyuubi was left alone with her thoughts. She could not get over what Naruto had done for her. Sure, it may not have taken too much effort on his part, but it was the first nice thing anyone had ever done for her. Kyuubi knew Naruto thought he was only repaying her for everything she had taught him, but the truth was he had already repaid her by allowing her to experience everything he did when he ripped the seal in half. She just couldn't help, she needed to do something for Naruto for what he had given her, but because of her being stuck inside his head, she could only think of one thing. The only problem with it was she did not know if he would be willing to accept the side effects of her gift. She would just have to wait till he woke up to see what he thinks. With that, Kyuubi headed back to her new bed and laid down to fall into the most peaceful sleep she had had in 10 years. The next day Naruto awoke only to find that for once Kyuubi was not waiting for him. Naruto walked up to the bars to get a better look only to see the door to her new bedroom open and her still lying asleep and to his amusement slightly snoring. Naruto decided to let her sleep until she woke up since it was the first night she had had a bed to sleep in 10 years. Since she had not shown him any jutsus to practice yet, he just began some physical workouts with the added weight of the gravity seal. When Kyuubi finally woke up and exited her bedroom, she found that Naruto was already up and working out. Naruto saw that Kyuubi had just come out and quickly finished what he was doing before greeting her. "Morning Kyuubi-chan, I see you're finally up," greeted Naruto to the sleepy-eyed woman and chuckling slightly at her bed head but not saying anything about it. "Morning Naruto-kun, how long have you already been up for?" Kyuubi asked. "Oh, only about 3 hours. I've mainly just been trying to get my physical exercises out of the way before you woke up," Naruto replied. "Why did you let me sleep in so long though? I could have been helping you train." Kyuubi asked. "Well, I was going to, but when I saw you sleeping so peacefully I couldn't bring myself to do it. Plus it was funny hearing you snore," chuckled Naruto. "I do not snore," shouted Kyuubi in indignation. "Whatever you say Kyuubi-chan," chuckled Naruto. "I don't snore," pouted Kyuubi quietly while crossing her arms over her chest. "Come on Kyuubi-chan, don't pout. I think your snoring's kinda cute," said Naruto like it was nothing but still causing the woman to blush due to him calling her snoring cute. After regaining her composure, Kyuubi replied. "Well, if you are going to tease me all day Naruto-kun, maybe I won't give you the gift I was planning to give you." Kyuubi teased back. "What gift?" Naruto asked, now intrigued. "I know you said you were saying thank you for me teaching you by giving my cell a new look, but to be honest everything I did was part of the deal we made, so I wanted to return the favor. The only problem is I'm not sure you'll want what I'm willing to give you," Kyuubi said a little more tentatively. "What do you mean Kyuubi-chan? Why wouldn't I want your gift?" Naruto asked, even more curious. "Naruto-kun, do you remember how some of the people in your village had certain bloodlines allowing them special abilities?" "Yeah, why do you ask?" "Well, like you humans, some of us demons have certain bloodlines too. What I would like to do is grant you my bloodline called the Jinkaku Baoshi, illusionary eye. Reason for me having this is because with the amount of chakra I have trouble performing illusion attacks. I usually am unable to not use too much chakra, thus making my illusion unstable. To remedy this fact I draw upon my bloodline to focus my chakra into using just the right amount to make the illusion work. I believe you may have the same problem with ninjutsus due to your incredibly large reserve of chakra as well. The bonus to this bloodline is that like the Sharingan of your village, it too has a special ability in its mature form. It is called the Jinjutsu Yaosai. This move allows you to make any Jinjutsu real, whether it was by your creation or not. The only problem with it though is that it would take a good chunk of your chakra to perform. It is not so bad for me, but since, and no offense, your chakra reserves are nowhere near mine, you would find your chakra depleted quite quickly from constant use without allowing your body to produce more," Kyuubi explained. "I am not really seeing a downside," her Kyuubi-chan stated Naruto STLL waiting for the catch. "I was just getting to that Naruto-kun. Like I said, this is a demonic bloodline and because of this it would require that you have some of my demonic blood running through your veins. We demons can grant mortals the power to be half demons should we choose, but most would never want to. If you do accept this gift it will literally turn you into a half demon, not enough to cause any noticeable changes right away, but it will affect how you age. Unlike normal humans, once you reach your peak physical age you will cease to grow old. It will not grant you eternal life, but it will give you in all essence eternal youth. The problem with this besides being classified as a half-demon is that as the people around you continue to grow old and you do not, they will know that you are not completely human, not to mention you will not grow old with whoever you find as your mate unless they too ask you to make them a half-demon. The only way I can think of so that people do not know what you are is to use a Jinjutsu to make it appear you are gradually growing older. This however will not change the fact of you having to live knowing you are half-demon," Kyuubi said, understanding if Naruto was unable to accept this. After thinking it over a bit Naruto decided. "I understand what you are telling me Kyuubi-chan, but the truth is everyone in my village already thinks of me as a demon and no decent woman would ever want to be with me. I personally have nothing against being a demon because all I have to do is look at you to know that it is not a bad thing and that it is only a state of being. "What I am trying to say is that I would be honored Kyuubi-chan to accept your gift," replied Naruto, without even the slightest bit of doubt in his decision. Kyuubi could not believe what she was hearing and not feel happy and sad at the same time. She was happy that her one and only friend had nothing against her being a demon, but could not help but be sad that he thought no woman would ever want to be with him. "Okay Naruto, if that is your decision then we shall begin the transformation. We will have to put off training for today, since the transformation will take about the rest of the time we have together, before you will have to return to the real world. I must warn you that this will definitely be the most painful thing you have ever experienced," said Kyuubi with a twinge of guilt for what she was about to do to him, even if he said he did want it. At Naruto's nod to begin she started the transformation. When Kyuubi said it would be painful she was not kidding. Naruto felt as if thousands of knives were being shoved into him all over. He screamed in pain until his voice was coarse, then finally falling into the mercy of unconsciousness. Once Naruto finally awoke he found Kyuubi standing behind the bars of her cage, gripping them tightly, staring down at him with tears in her eyes. Naruto slowly got up and walked over to her. He then reached through the bars and wiped the tears away from her eyes, while softly telling her he was okay. "I'm so sorry Naruto-kun, I never should have asked you to accept my bloodline, I have caused you so much pain that you must hate me," Kyuubi said between small sobs, with tears threatening to flow from her eyes once more. "There is no need to be sorry Kyuubi-chan. I already told you it was what I wanted and I thank you. You are a good friend for what you have given me," Naruto said softly. Kyuubi was glad that Naruto did not hate her for what she did, but for some reason she could not tell she felt a slight pain in her heart when he had only called her a good friend. Only noticing that she knew Naruto did not hate her, he told Kyuubi that he should probably go, since he would need to get some rest before his training with Kenshin tomorrow. But that they said goodbye to each other and Naruto headed back to the real world, leaving Kyuubi to think over the cause once more of the pain in her heart when Naruto had called her a good friend. 2 more years later, 4 for Naruto. It had now been 2 years, 4 for Naruto, since Naruto had began his new programs with both Kenshin and Kyuubi. The say training does the body good didn't even begin to describe how it had helped Naruto. Over the years Naruto had continued to leave the gravity seal on no matter what. The only time Naruto even reduced the weight he had the seal place upon his body was when he had a mission to undertake, and only then reduced the weight to more manageable levels to keep himself from being killed. When Naruto had first showed up the next day of training with his sensei after activating the seal, Kenshin had immediately noticed his pupil was moving much slower than normal in their spars and had asked what was wrong. Naruto told him all about the purpose of the seal, and Kenshin couldn't help but agree that it was a good idea. He only made Naruto promise not to overdo it, knowing how Naruto's overzealous attitude towards his training sometimes got the better of him. Kenshin continued to spar with Naruto and demonstrate new techniques of his sword style. Naruto had only been able to master a few techniques he had been shown due to them being much more difficult than anything he had attempted in his life, however, this only seemed to fuel the man's desire to learn and try harder. In Naruto's training with Kyuubi he was proceeding at a much faster rate than he was with Kenshin. He was already at Chunin level. Kyuubi had taken it upon herself to teaching Naruto every form of jutsu she knew, including Tai, Gen, healing, and ninjutsu. Kyuubi had somewhat specialized Naruto in ninjutsu and taijutsu, making them the main area of focus. He had also a moderate level of knowledge of genjutsu, but due to his new bloodline, he was a master at the ones he did know and could dispel or at least spot any around him. Kyuubi did not know much along the lines of healing jutsus, since her chakra had always healed her automatically, and because of this, she was only able to impart minor knowledge of the art upon Naruto, being just enough to keep a comrade alive long enough to get them to a hospital. He had finished his training in this area in only a few months because of this problem. Kyuubi did not bother trying to teach Naruto anything about Kenjutsu due to Kenshin being able to teach him more than she could. As far as her teaching him any Kenjutsus, well, she didn't teach him any, since she did not know any herself. Kenjutsus were well-guarded secrets in the various villages, and unfortunately she had never had access to them. Naruto and Kyuubi had continued to become closer since the night she had turned him into a Hanyu. They still tried to annoy the hell out of each other, but was for different reasons for each of them. Naruto annoyed and teased her mainly because that was the way he saw their relationship together. He thought of her as just a very good and best friend, not even thinking of her in a romantic way. Naruto definitely found Kyuubi attractive, but he firmly believed she would never think of him as anything more than a friend, so he kept all his thoughts in regards to him and her platonic. Kyuubi on the other hand had come to fall completely in love with Naruto and only continued to annoy and tease him to keep her true feelings for him hidden in fear of him rejecting her. She would occasionally attempt to flirt with him discreetly, but Naruto would never pick up on it and either continued with his training or moved the conversation in another direction. What really didn't help Kyuubi was that the object of her desire had become one of the most handsome men she had ever seen, which is quite impressive for how long she had been around. Over the course of the 2 years, 4 for Naruto, his body had aged to that of a 19-year-old man and now stood at a height of 6'2". His physical exercises had made his body go from slender like Kenshin's to a more athletically ripped figure packed with muscles, but without looking like some disgusting bodybuilder. He continued to wear his long hair into a ponytail trailing down to his mid-back like Kenshin, and his face had lost the last traces of baby fat it possessed, giving him a very chiseled and handsome look. He now wore a tight-fitting deep crimson t-shirt underneath a black jounin-like vest. Also, instead of his old kimono pants with the sash belt, wore a pair of black and crimson cargo pants in order to store the different kunai, shuriken, and scrolls he liked to carry with him. To top everything off, he wore a large black trench coat that came down to his ankles with loose-fitting long sleeves and had his sword strapped to his side underneath the coat. The main reason for this change of wardrobe was for a couple reasons. He was now stronger and fast enough that he no longer needed the help of lightweight, loose-fitting clothing to give him an edge. He now could afford a bit tighter and heavier outfit in order to provide extra protection and room to store things on his person. The second reason was because he wanted his appearance to show that he was proud to be a ninja, even if he was trained in the ways of a samurai. In Kyuubi's opinion, Naruto looked like some sort of Greek god, sorry for the cliché, and only fueled her desire for him more. As a side note, Kyuubi had also taken it upon herself to find out if he had undergone any rather personal changes to go with his new body. One day when Naruto was showering, Kyuubi's perverted curiosity had gotten the better of her and she did something she had never done before. While Naruto was washing a certain part of his body, Kyuubi decided to take a look through his eyes to get a little peek. What she saw though had not helped her with keeping platonic thoughts of her love. Over Naruto's lifespan, the demonic chakra must have had an additional side effect neither was aware of, for Naruto had a size that would cause most men to feel severely inadequate. By Kyuubi's judgment, she guessed that Naruto had to be at least between 9 and 10 inches. After that day, Naruto watching became one of her favorite pastimes. Kyuubi was not the only one who had noticed Naruto's changes. Naruto was now the most wanted man in the whole base. Naruto knew this fact and oftentimes took advantage of it. Over the course of 2 years, Naruto often indulged himself flirting and having a little fun with his female comrades. When he first began to notice the stares he was beginning to receive, Naruto was confused. He had asked Kenshin why so many women had begun looking at him all the time, and Kenshin was forced to tell Naruto how he had kinda become a very popular topic among the women. The reason Naruto was so wanted by the female populace was not only because of his looks, even if it was the main reason. What put him at number 1 was that he had a very strong and mysterious presence about him. Naruto now had begun taking only solo top secret missions and had been promoted to the rank of Commander B, only second to his sensei in Kenshin's forces. Naruto may not have been the best yet with a sword, but because of his additional shinobi training, he was able to combine the two to make him one of the most feared fighters in battle. Since he began his top secret missions and the occasional mass battlefield conflict, he had picked up the title of Hitakiri Batausai, which had once belonged to his sensei. Naruto was feared by his enemies for his cold, non-caring attitude towards the men he killed. He had at this point killed more men than most of the soldiers in the rebellion, with the exception of the generals and other veterans who had been fighting since the beginning of the revolution. So combined with his new looks and reputation, he had practically all the women of the base and even a few female enemies swooning over him, think of Sasuke's fangirls. Naruto enjoyed having some fun going out with them, but due to how they would not even be able to hold a conversation with him without going all dreamy-eyed, he never entered an actually relationship. Even Megumi had fallen for him just like all his other fangirls, which he took advantage of. Besides being known for his reputation on missions, he was also known for being a stamina freak in bed. Pretty much all of Naruto's dates usually ended with him going back to his place where they participated in some strenuous activity until the woman would normally pass out from exhaustion. All this attention Naruto was giving different women, however, was not going over well with Kyuubi. She would oftentimes give Naruto the silent treatment morning after one of Naruto's dates, and he could never figure out what he did wrong. He would normally just shrug it off and let Kyuubi tell him when she was ready. Well, after 2 years of this, even Naruto's patience had finally given out and he confronted her about it at their next training session. "Okay Kyuubi, I want some answers. You always seem to be mad at me for some reason, but you never tell me why. You are constantly giving me the silent treatment and it is now beginning to affect our training. I thought we were friends, so why don't you tell me what's going on?" Naruto said, irritated. This was a bad move on his part because Kyuubi too had finally grown fed up with his cluelessness. "Oh, I don't know, how about how every time you come here you are talking about some new girl that is drooling over you, or how about how you will not shut up about how your date went with some bimbo the night before?" Kyuubi shouted in a rage. At this point Naruto was utterly confused since in his opinion, he hardly talked about his dates or other women, which was true, and the only time he did was when he was trying to make small talk. Naruto could not see what she had against him dating different women for, but then the thought struck him, but he just couldn't believe it could be true. Naruto voiced this thought nonetheless just out of curiosity. Kyuubi-chan, you're not actually jealous of those other women, are you? Asked Naruto, not sure what to expect. This caused Kyuubi to blush but immediately respond. I am not jealous, why would I be jealous of some sluts you date? Replied the yelling woman a bit too hurriedly for Naruto's taste. I can't believe it, you are jealous. Why do you care so much about who I date? Naruto asked, shocked. Okay, so maybe I am a little jealous, but why shouldn't I be? I mean, it was me who has known you your whole life. It was me who has taken care of you whenever you were hurt. I am the one who actually loves you instead of having some stupid little infatuation like all those girls you date. Said Kyuubi, but then becoming immediately silent upon realizing what she just said. Naruto could not believe what he just heard. Had Kyuubi just said that she loved him? How could the queen of all demons, possibly the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, be in love with him? Kyuubi-chan, did you just say you loved me? Asked Naruto a little nervously. Kyuubi was quiet for a little bit and stared at the floor until she replied. Yes, Naruto-kun, I do love you. I started to feel this way 4 years ago, since Kyuubi has lived in the same time frame as Naruto, when you first told me how you didn't care about me being a demon and accepted my bloodline. I had already cared for you as a dear friend before that, but after hearing what you said it made my feelings for you grow. Over the years I have seen how kind and caring you can be, but I have also seen your strength and determination. I have come to love everything about you, but feared how you would react. I feared that if you found out you would reject me and stop being my friend. You are the first real friend I have ever had, and I didn't want to lose that, even if it meant never telling you how I really feel. Kyuubi said with fear in her eyes while looking at Naruto, waiting to see his reaction. Naruto was deep in thought over Kyuubi's confession before he finally spoke up. I am not sure what to say. I never thought you would ever feel that way about me, and I am little taken aback by your confession. Naruto said. Naruto could see the sadness on Kyuubi's face after what he said before she looked away. Kyuubi thought this was the point where Naruto would tell her how he did not feel that way about her and that she had ruined their friendship. So obviously what Naruto said next surprised her. Ai-chan, please look at me. Said Naruto, and Kyuubi tearfully complied. Naruto slowly walked over to Kyuubi's cell and ripped off the remaining half of the seal, causing the bars to vanish. Kyuubi could not believe what Naruto just did. He had destroyed the one thing that kept him safe from her. She may be unable to escape his body due to their chakras mixing, but she could now take over his body by just destroying him in his mind. She had no idea why Naruto would do something like this. At seeing the woman's confusion, Naruto smiled and walked over to her. Just like 4 years ago, he tenderly wiped the tears from her eyes, but then he enveloped her in his arms before looking down to meet her eyes and gently placed a kiss upon her lips. Ai-chan, I am not sure what I feel for you is love, but I want you to know that I care for you much more than just a friend, and I would like to find out what this is. I would never want to see you upset and would do anything to make you happy. If that means you don't want me going out with those other women, then so be it. Said Naruto said softly, looking deep into her eyes. Kyuubi was in heaven. The man she loved more than life itself had just told her that he liked her too. He may not have said that he loved her, but he didn't say that he did not either. For now that was all she needed, and she tightly wrapped her arms around him and brought her lips to his for another, much longer, passion-filled kiss. They seemed to stay like that for an eternity until Naruto slowly pulled away. Wow, Naruto said, causing Kyuubi to giggle. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Kyuubi said, leaning into Naruto's muscular frame. Does this mean I get the day off from training? Naruto asked, hopefully causing Kyuubi to lightly laugh. Sorry Naruto-kun, but no such luck. Just because I love you, that doesn't mean I'm going to take it easier on you. I will probably make you work harder to make you strong enough to keep yourself from getting killed. Kyuubi said, laughing and causing Naruto to groan. So what do I get out of increasing my training regime? Naruto asked suggestively, looking at her with eyes full of desire. How about if you're real good you can have all the kisses you want, Kyuubi replied sweetly. I guess I can live with that, Naruto said before kissing her deeply once more. Just for the record, Naruto-kun, I never said you couldn't date other women. I just want to make sure I get my well-earned Naruto time. Kyuubi said, still snuggling into Naruto. Once again Naruto was confused. What do you mean you don't mind me dating other women? I thought that was why you were upset with me in the first place. Is this some kind of test? Said Naruto, to which Kyuubi only laughed. No Naruto-kun, this is not a test. You see, in the demon world our moral values are a little different. We don't have anything against polygamous relationships, and in fact we actually encourage them. Something not a lot of mortals know is that there is actually a lot more female demons than there are males, and because of this, we have come to learn to share in order to make sure there is no fighting over the limited male prospects. Also, we demons have nothing against having a little fun with each other when the males are busy. Kyuubi said while laughing at the expression on Naruto's face. Naruto could hardly believe what he was being told. What he assumed, girlfriend was actually giving him permission to date other women, and to top it all off she was encouraging it. This was every man's dream. I do have one request though, Naruto-kun, said Kyuubi, at which point Naruto began to think it was too good to be true. Don't worry Naruto-kun, I am not taking back what I said, I just want you to be a little more selective with who you date. Some of those girls were way too slutty, and you don't even want to know how many diseases I had to keep you from getting. Kyuubi said, causing Naruto to pale. Okay Kyu-chan, I'll keep that in mind, but right now I think you are the only women I need. If something else happens along the line we'll deal with it then. That sounds good to me Naruto-kun, but I think we should get started on your training now, Kyuubi said, causing Naruto to groan once more. I was kinda hoping you forgot that, Naruto mumbled quietly. The rest of the day Naruto spent his time training, only stopping once in a while for Naruto to receive his reward for working so hard. At the end of the day before leaving, Naruto changed the rest of his mindscape to look like the rest of Kyuubi's living quarters. A little over 1 year later, 2 for Naruto. A little over 1 year had passed, and not much had changed for Naruto in his training. Naruto still had only mastered a few of the heightened Mitsurugi Ryu techniques, but he had learned a good majority of its sub-art Batojutsu. In his training with Kyuubi he was currently at the level of a beginning jounin. His personal life though had taken a significant turn from what it used to be. Ever since getting together with Kyuubi he had become more selective with whom he went out with, just like Kyuubi requested. The only time he went out with someone was if he was in the mood for a little one-on-one nightly training, and because of Naruto's new selectiveness, he seemed to be even more wanted by the women. Kyuubi had told him it was because he had this kind of unattainable status. Naruto and Kyuubi had yet to get the point in their relationship where they had any kind of intimate actions besides the occasional groping. Kyuubi said she had her reasons, and Naruto accepted that. They were already sleeping in the same bed when Naruto visited her, but that was as far as it went. The two had added time before and after Naruto's training program to just sit and talk with the occasional, or rather frequent, makeout session. Naruto truly felt he could not care for Kyuubi more than he did. This was when Naruto realized that he did actually love her. Naruto had told Kyuubi this just the night before, and she literally was brought to tears. The rest of that day was spent just sitting together holding each other while they talked and kissed. Kyuubi told Naruto before he left that day that when he returned they had something serious to talk about. When Naruto asked what it was about, all Kyuubi would tell him was to not worry about it and they would talk later. All that following day Naruto spent thinking what Kyuubi could want to talk about that was so important. When Kenshin noticed Naruto was distracted he confronted him about it. All Naruto would say was that Kyuubi had told him that they needed to talk, but would not say what about. Kenshin had known about Naruto and Kyuubi's relationship for a while now and thought it was great how Naruto finally had someone to care about instead of his usual one-nighters, even if he wouldn't mind having a few of those himself. Kenshin just told Naruto not to worry about it and that he would find out later that night. He told Naruto that he didn't have any reason to worry because he knew Kyuubi loved him. This seemed to put Naruto at peace even if it was just a little. At night Naruto returned to the mindscape to see a nervous-looking woman. "Hi Kyu-chan. How's beautiful girlfriend doing today?" asked Naruto, trying to get Kyuubi to lighten up a bit. "I'm doing okay Naruto-kun, I'm just a little nervous about what we need to talk about," said the woman after Naruto kissed her. "How about we sit down and discuss it so that you can calm down?" Naruto said, leading his girlfriend to the couch. After sitting down Kyuubi spoke up. "Naruto-kun, I have to ask. What you said yesterday, did you really mean it?" Kyuubi asked. "Of course I meant it Kyu-chan. I love you, why would you doubt that?" asked Naruto. "I just needed to be sure before this conversation goes any farther. Naruto-kun, do you remember how nervous I was when I first asked you to have my bloodline?" Kyuubi asked, becoming nervous once more. Naruto slowly responded, not sure where she was going with this. "Well, there was a second reason I was hesitant about giving you my bloodline. In demon society, when a female demon gives a part of herself to a male, it is the first part of a ritual in choosing a mate. To you humans it would be called an engagement," said Kyuubi, waiting for Naruto's reaction. It took a bit, but then Naruto realized what Kyuubi had just said. "Wait a minute, are you saying that we're engaged?" Naruto asked, shocked. "Yes, Naruto-kun. I wanted so badly to repay your kindness that day, but this was the only thing I could give since I was imprisoned here. I do not regret what I did and I hope you are not mad at me for not telling you," said Kyuubi nervously. "Of course not Kyu-chan. I could never really be mad at you, but why are you telling me this now?" asked Naruto as he held her hand. "I'm getting to that part. You see, when I told you I was not ready for us to have sex was because it is part of the second phase of the mating ritual. In the demon world, any female demon that chooses a mate makes him her lord. By doing so she becomes subservient to him and must do whatever he commands. Unlike you humans, when we choose a mate it is for life. I wanted to make sure you loved me as much as I loved you before we took the next step, because once we do there is no going back for me should you decide to leave me. I will never be able to be with another man besides you after we are mated. said Kyuubi looking Naruto in the eyes. Kayu-chan, are you telling me that pretty much once we, as you put it, have sex you will be bound to me for life even more than you already are? Asked Naruto. Yes Naruto-kun, but that is still not all. A female demon is not capable of having a human or even a Hanyu male as a mate because the male's sperm would never be potent enough to impregnate the female demon to have kids. It is still possible for a demon to take a female human as a mate because they do not have the potency problem. That is how natural Hanyu are born. In order for us to be mates, it would require you to take the next step in becoming a full-fledged demon, stated Kyuubi still looking in Naruto's eyes for any sign of rejection. Sensing Kyuubi's fear he tried to alleviate her concern. I already told you Kayu-chan, I do not have anything against being a demon. If that's what it takes to be with you then so be it. I do kinda wanna know though what kind of changes I should expect. Besides the whole never dying of old age thing, not anything right away. For demons we do not begin to develop any differences from normal humans till we're a couple centuries old. Once you hit between 200 to 300 years old, you will then begin to develop a demon form, but until then you will continue to be almost no different than a normal human. You can draw upon a few of my demonic features such as heightened senses, claws and teeth, but that is just because I am sealed within you. You do need to remember that just because you would be a demon and can't die of old age, that does not mean you cannot be killed. You will be immortal, not invulnerable. You won't even be any stronger. The reason most demons are so powerful is because we do not show ourselves until we have had a few centuries to become as strong as we are. We have to work at it just like you humans, said Kyuubi. So pretty much there won't be anything different after the change, except for my new official classification as a demon which people won't even know unless I tell them, stated asked Naruto. That is correct Naruto-kun, answered Kyuubi. Then I would love to be your mate Kayu-chan, but I think we should hold off on the whole having kids thing until I begin to come into my demon form so that I can help protect them better, said Naruto. I guess that makes sense, Kyuubi said, a little disappointed she would have to wait that long before having kids. So what do I have to do this time to make me a full demon, and will it hurt as much as last time I became a Hanyu, asked Naruto. It won't feel pleasant, but it shouldn't hurt as much as last time. Your body is already partially demonic, so completing the rest of the transformation shouldn't be as invasive to your body. All you have to do is sign something similar to a summoning contract in your blood. It is kind of like a marriage contract and is the only way for a demon to turn a Hanyu into a full demon. By signing the contract in your blood you will have bond me to you and thus change the rest of your body to that of a demon's. This will also allow you to summon foxes including me to the real world to do your bidding. Not every demon's mating contract is like this, but because I am the queen of all foxes, mine has this additional property, Kyuubi said proudly. So does that mean I could summon you to practically destroy a village if I wanted to, ask Naruto in disbelief. Not exactly Naruto-kun. You are still not strong enough to summon me at my full power, but you should be able to summon me with enough strength to be more powerful than most summons by the time you return to the village. It will take you less chakra to summon me since the contract you sign will be different than a normal summoning contract, but because of how much chakra I possess at full strength, it will take you a few centuries to summon me with all my power, Kyuubi said, sorry to disappoint Naruto. Oh well, I guess things can't be that easy. So once I sign your mating contract and become a demon, is there anything else I have to do to make me your mate, asked Naruto and causing Kyuubi to blush. Well, after signing the contract you will need to take my virginity, said Kyuubi, causing her blush to grow. Oh, you mean you and me will have to right after I becoming a demon and you're saying you're still a virgin after 1,000 years? Yes Naruto-kun, I have never mated with another man before because for the female that would bond her to that male for life. That is also why we detest rape, since it takes away our choice in a mate. After you become a demon and we mate I would be bound to you as my lord, said Kyuubi. Okay then, Naruto said nervously. When would you like to begin this, asked Naruto, not quite sure what to say. If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind if we begin by signing the contract now, since it will take a little time for the transformation to be complete, Kyuubi said nervously, still expecting him to change his mind somewhat. Okay, Naruto gulped. Kyuubi then produced the marriage contract to which Naruto signed without hesitation. Naruto immediately felt the change taking place and his body, transforming the last shred of his humanity to that of a demon. The pain was not as bad as the first time, but like Kyuubi said it would, it was not pleasant. Unlike the 1,000 knives he felt like he was being skewered with the first time, he now merely felt like his body had been put through his physical training program for 3 days straight. His muscles burned, his bones ached, and he felt as though he had completely exhausted his chakra. After a while Naruto felt so wore out that he passed out from exhaustion. Upon waking up Naruto found himself on the bed in the master bedroom with his head in Kyuubi's lap while she was stroking his hair. Naruto slowly sat up and looked at Kyuubi. How are you feeling, Naruto-kun, asked Kyuubi. Okay, I guess, I don't feel any different than I did before the transformation though. Are you sure it worked, asked Naruto. Yes, I can already tell by your scent that you are now a demon. You will have to use a genjutsu to mask your demonic scent when you return to the village. I believe there is a clan there that has the senses of a dog as their bloodline, and they would be able to tell if they got to close without the genjutsu, said Kyuubi. If you say so, Naruto said, lying down once more. Naruto, Kyuubi said with a bit of a shaky voice. Naruto said, sitting up once more. We kinda still need to finish completing the mating ritual, said Kyuubi, fidgeting slightly. Now? Naruto asked, surprised she would bring it up so soon after the transformation. Yes, now Naru-kun. When you signed my mating contract it started my mating drive. In other words, it's made me very horny and in need of release very soon. Kyuubi said, blushing very deeply and fidgeting even more, rubbing her legs together. Oh, Naruto said, now too blushing. Please Naru-kun, help me. I can hardly stand it, said Kyuubi, practically begging for it. Seeing Kyuubi's need, Naruto complied. Naruto just lay there with Kyuubi nestling into his side as she fell asleep from exhaustion. He could already feel the mating bond secreting itself between the two and began to feel the love Kyuubi had for him. Naruto had no doubt in his mind that what he felt for Kyuubi was the same that she felt for him. For the first time in Naruto's life he felt completely at peace and loved. Feeling his exhaustion taking over, he wrapped his arms around his lover and made to pull her closer before he placed a gentle kiss on her forehead as he fell into a blissful slumber. The next morning Naruto woke to a sleeping Kyuubi in his arms. He thought back to the previous night's activities and smiled. He couldn't believe that someone like Kyuubi would choose him to be her mate for eternity. Naruto softly stroked Kyuubi's hair and removed a strand away from her face. He couldn't help but laugh when he noticed she was snoring a little once more. Kyuubi slowly opened her eyes to see Naruto staring at her and laughing slightly. "What's so funny?" asked Kyuubi, giving Naruto a tender kiss. "Nothing, you were just snoring a little," Naruto said. "I already told you, Naru-kun, I don't snore," pouted Kyuubi. "And I already said you do, and I also told you I think it's cute," Naruto said, kissing her again. "Fine, but just don't tell anyone," mumbled Kyuubi as she snuggled into Naruto's chest more. "Come on, Kyu-chan, we need to get training started today," prodded Naruto. "I don't think I'm going to be much help today, Naru-kun. I'm still a little sore from last night," said Kyuubi, smiling as she remembered last night's activities. "Oh, sorry about that. I guess I got a little carried away," Naruto said, scratching the back of his head as he sat up. "Don't be. Last night was amazing," said Kyuubi, sitting up too while pulling the covers around her. "Thanks, Kyu-chan," replied Naruto as he began getting dressed. After both of them were dressed they headed for the training room to begin that day's workout, which Kyuubi just sat and watched due to her soreness. About halfway through Kyuubi spoke up. "Naru-kun, now that you're a full-blooded demon, I was wondering if you have given any thought to what that means," asked Kyuubi. "Not really, Kyu-chan." "Why?" Naruto asked. "Well, now that you're a demon you kind of fall under their unwritten rules. You will need to begin keeping an eye out for other potential mates since you are one of the few male demons. If you don't find other mates, other female demons may start trying to force themselves on you," Kyuubi told Naruto. "How many are we talking here? What's the minimum number I'll need to keep myself from being raped by a bunch of horny demons?" asked Naruto, feeling he wasn't going to like the answer. "I would say just to be on the safe side about 3 or 4 more," stated Kyuubi. 3 or 4 more? Where the hell am I going to find that many mates?" screamed Naruto. "It's not as bad as you think, Naru-kun. Unlike female demons you can mate with humans. You could also always turn any willing human female into a Hanyu or full demon if you wanted, since you two are now completely demon. Besides, I don't think you will have trouble finding mates. I mean, just look at you, you remember how all the women in the base practically throw themselves at you," said Kyuubi. "I know that, but I don't want a fangirl as a mate. Sure, they're fun for a one-night stand, but they're not someone I want to spend the rest of my life with. How am I going to find 3 or 4 more quality women who don't mind me being a demon?" Naruto asked. "It'll be fine, Naru-kun. Just don't worry about it. Be your normal kind self and keep an eye out for any interested women and everything will turn out okay," Kyuubi assured Naruto. "If you say so, Kyu-chan," said Naruto, accepting Kyuubi's reasoning and continuing with his training, not wanting to continue discussing this. Naruto spent the rest of his day finishing his training, only stopping for breathers to spend some time with Kyuubi before returning to the real world. Naruto spent the next few months training, sitting in officer meetings, helping to stop enemy attacks, and going out on high-level missions. Over the past months the Fire Lord's attacks had become more and more aggressive. Everyone knew that the rebellion's efforts had severely weakened the current ruling government's power, and they were becoming more desperate with each strike. In the past meeting they had all discussed how it wouldn't be long till the enemy launched a final attack to decide the war. All the generals had been trying to prepare their troops for the upcoming confrontation, and you could feel the tension all throughout the base. To add to it all, Naruto's time he had to train was coming to an end, and it would only be a few months before he would need to return to the village to begin his academy schooling. Naruto knew it would be just a waste of time, but every prospective shinobi was required to go through the academy for at least a year. 2 months before Naruto was to leave, Kenshin had approached him. "Naruto-kun, we need to talk. I and my fellow generals have just had an urgent meeting to discuss some new intelligence we have just received. It appears that the enemy is gathering the last of its forces to try one last offensive. It turns out that they have found our base and are planning to attack within the month. It seems we will see an end to this war before you return to your village, unlike we expected," Kenshin stated. "I'm glad, sensei. As the time has been growing closer to leave, I have just not felt right leaving everyone as the war was still going on," said Naruto. "That's good to hear, Naruto, because I fear we will need all the help we can get. This will be bigger than any battle we have fought up to now. I'm not sure if you noticed, but ever since you have begun to show your skill and leadership in a fight, the troops have begun to look up to you just as much as they do to me and my fellow generals. I feel I made a wise choice when I made you my commander," said Kenshin, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Thank you, you honor me, sensei," said Naruto. "I also have something to tell you that I have never told anyone. Years before I met you, I had a wife named Tomo. I had finished my training under my sensei and been working as an assassin for the rebellion for 2 years. She never did like me killing, but I told her I did it to bring a better world for the children we planned to have. In one of my missions, I was caught killing my target without me knowing. As a way of retaliating against me, they had ordered my wife to be killed. We received word of the planned attack and I rushed home to get her, but by the time I got there they already had her hostage. The men attacked me and I killed most of them, but I was greatly injured. When it was just me and the leader, it looked like he was going to win. As he tried to finish me off, Tomo tried to stop him. I did not realize this at the time and slashed my sword wildly and ended up killing the man. I then realized though that I had accidentally stuck Tomo too. Once I saw what I did, I ran to her and cradled her in my arms as she took her last breath. I swore at that point that once the revolution was over that I would never kill again," Kenshin told Naruto with tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, sensei. I can't even imagine losing the woman you love. I don't know what I would do if I lost Kayu-chan," said Naruto sincerely. "It's okay, Naruto, but the reason I'm telling you this now is because after the final battle I plan to disappear. I don't know where I will go, but I do plan to eventually head to Tokyo. It's a fairly large village in this story. By the time you should have finished your training, that is where you will most likely find me. I want to give you the scrolls to learn from now, since I don't know when the enemy will attack. If you cannot find me when you seek to learn the final teachings of the heightened Mitsurugi Ryu, seek out my old master Heiko Sejuro and tell him why you are there. He will teach you the final techniques. I do hope, however, that it is I who teaches you. As you wish, sensei. I don't know when the last time I will see you before the final battle, and I just want to say thank you. You not only helped me to become strong in order for me to fulfill my dream, but you also adopted me, becoming my father. You are one of only 3 people in my life who I can remember ever showing me any love. You brought me here to train me, but in the process you gave me a home. I have made many friends and had such a fantastic life. I can't imagine what my life would have been like or how I would have turned out if I had never met you. I am even grateful for having that man almost kill me all those years ago, because that day I met the woman I now love. You have done so much for me, sensei, and I will never be able to repay you. If there is ever anything I can do to help you, just come find me," Naruto said with tears in his eyes as he gave Kenshin a hug. "No thanks are necessary, Naruto. You have made me so proud with what you have achieved. You are the kind of son I always wanted to have with Tomo. You brought me out of a very dark place in my life when I met you. You probably even saved my life in those woods the first time we met. You will always be my son, Naruto, no matter where you go or what you do. I love you, son, and will miss you," said Kenshin with eyes full of tears as he returned Naruto's hug. "I love and will miss you too, out-you-sen," said Naruto quietly before breaking apart from Kenshin. Later that evening, Kenshin gave Naruto the rest of the scrolls he would need to train from. Naruto and Kenshin spent the next couple of weeks spending as much time together as possible, be it training, eating, or just talking. They both knew it couldn't be long until the attack. During those weeks, Naruto spent his days in his mindscape training even harder with Kyuubi for the upcoming battle. During the nights there, he would relieve his stress with a little Kyuubi lovemaking that always made him feel better afterwards, and Kyuubi soared the next day. The day finally came a few days before the 1-month mark when Naruto needed to return. They had received word that the shogunate forces were on the move. The rebel forces had been on high alert for some time and were ready to move at a moment's notice. The generals each gave their forces the order to move out. They had planned to meet the enemy in the plains between the villages of Toba and Fushimi. There they would mount their last stand that would decide the outcome of the war. Naruto had already placed all his scrolls and weapons into a few containment scrolls he kept on his person since, like Kenshin, he did not plan on returning after the battle. Before heading out, Naruto noticed Kenshin snap a second sword to his side that he did not recognize. Without missing a beat, Kenshin gave half of his troops to Naruto to command. When they arrived their forces would be the front line of the attack. The reason for this being was that Kenshin's forces were known to be the most skilled in the entire army, and they would have the best chance of killing as many of the enemy as possible without getting killed. Naruto marched with his troops to their destination deep in thought, trying to think up the best course of action. He knew that this would be a long drawn-out fight and that many of his comrades would not return alive. He tried to burn as many faces into his memory as he could, knowing he would probably not see them again once he left for the village. The closer they got, the more tense everyone became. After hours of walking, they finally arrived to see the form of shogunate forces approaching far in the distance. Each general took this time to try to inspire courage into their men. "Okay, men, this is the moment of truth. This is what we have been fighting towards all these years. What we have sacrificed for. What we have lost loved ones and friends for. Many of you will not return alive today, but if you do, your deaths will not be in vain. What we do today will mark the beginning of a better future for our children and our children's children. A better future for the nation. All of you are already heroes for what you have done, but today you will become legend. In years to come they will speak of this battle as the greatest to have ever existed. They will say that the men who fought risked their lives on what they believed was right and just. I am proud to have served among you, and if my life is required for us to emerge victorious, then so be it, but I will take as many of them with me as possible. I don't know about you, but I want to know I gave everything I had today and have no regrets. Do you want to live knowing you could have done, or do you want to risk everything?" shouted Kenshin to his troops. "Everything," shouted the troops back. "Then let's show them what we're fighting for," said Kenshin as he turned to lead the charge. Naruto could not help but feel inspired by Kenshin's speech. This was the first time he had ever been in a battle with his sensei at his side, since the two were never needed in the same conflict. The shogunate forces were now charging towards them from across the battlefield. The enemy numbered in the thousands, and the rebels were outnumbered 2-1. The rebels, however, were more skilled and were fighting for their beliefs instead of just someone's orders. But the final war cry from Kenshin, they charged. As Naruto charged, keeping his hand on the hilt of his sword and dispelling his gravity seal, he commanded his troops with last-minute orders, adjusting to the enemy attack. When the forces clashed, it was utter mayhem. Reaching his first opponent, Naruto drew his blade, slicing the man's chest open in the process. Naruto danced around the battlefield, killing all enemies that got near him with one slice. It had only been a minute, but he was already drenched in blood. Kyuubi was in the back of his mind, urging him on, and he could literally feel her bloodlust. He soaked it in, became one with the feeling. His eyes were cold, emotionless as he decapitated another foe, spraying more blood everywhere. Naruto had no clue how many men he had killed, it was too many to count. He could see his men falling all around him, slain by the enemy. Naruto had no time to feel remorse as he stabbed his sword through another man's chest. He made no noise and killed with ruthless efficiency until it appeared he was trapped and surrounded on all sides. As the enemy charged him, he made a few one-handed seals and shouted Katen. Kikaku no Jutsu, unleashing a huge fireball right ahead of him at his enemies. The men screamed in pain as Naruto ran through the new opening he had made to escape the men who had surrounded him. Once he had escaped the circle of enemies, he spun around, sheathing his sword, drew set of kunai, threw them at the enemy, then quickly made a set of hand signs. With a cry of Taiju Kage Kunai Bushin no Jutsu, his few kunai multiplied into thousands, killing over 100 of the enemy. Naruto had ceased caring about hitting any comrades, he had already become separated from them. Somewhere along the line, as Naruto got deeper and deeper into the enemy, his troops had been cut off from him from behind. It turns out that the enemy had been trying to get him separated in order to have an easier time killing him. Naruto was going to show them he would be no easy kill no matter what they did. Drawing his sword once more, he spun around, slicing the man trying to attack him from behind from groin to neck. The man fell down dead, instantly coating Naruto's blade with his blood. Naruto worked his way through the enemy, killing all those that got near him as he tried to regroup with the rest of his forces. He could no longer feel any part of his body. Naruto had been going at this for over an hour. He had been gradually having to resort to using more and more jutsus to keep from being killed. The enemy's numbers seemed to have no end. Every time he struck one down, another took its place. At one point he had been able to regroup with a few of his comrades, but by now they had already been killed. Naruto could feel fatigue beginning to set in as his chakra reserves gradually began to deplete. Kyuubi was screaming for him to let her out to tear the flesh from the bones of his enemies, but that was something Naruto could not allow. If he summoned her, word would get out that Kyuubi was free at the battle, and then he would be unable to return to the village. The villagers would know that he had set Kyuubi free somehow, even if it was for a limited, would attempt to kill him for it. So instead, in one last-ditch effort to survive, Naruto called upon Kyuubi's chakra into himself, absorbing as much as his body could handle. In the end he was able to pull off 4 taels worth. Naruto was running on pure instinct now. His nails had grown into large claws, his teeth grew longer and sharper, and a red visible chakra aura gathered all around his body, with 4 chakra tails wiping behind him. Naruto charged at his prey, since that is all he recognized them as. He slashed with his claws and tore out their throats with his teeth. At this point the shogunate forces were terrified of the man. They knew of his reputation as Hitakiri Batausai, but what they saw now was a demon in their mind, and they could literally feel the killing intent rolling off him in waves that promised certain death. They had no clue though that they were literally fighting a demon. As the enemy watched in fear as their comrades were ripped limb from limb in the most gruesome display possible, they did the only thing they could think of, they ran. Naruto however had no intention of letting his prey escape. He chased after them, going after anything he saw. As the rebel forces saw the enemy retreating, they cheered for their victory, but as the enemy continued to run, they saw something chasing and attacking them. Kenshin, who had been busy leading his own forces and taking out the enemy, saw that Naruto had lost control of himself and was now a danger to everyone around him. Seeing that the battle was already won and no use for meaningless slaughter, Kenshin raced towards Naruto with intent to stop him. Not wanting to hurt his student but knowing he needed to knock him out, he drew his second sword. This was the Sakabado he had used when he defeated his master with the final technique of the heightened Mitsurugi Ryu. But the cry of Ryutsusen Kenshin leaped into the air and brought the reverse blade down upon his student's head, effectively knocking him out. Upon awakening, Naruto was met with an empty battlefield. Looking around, Naruto saw that to his sight his sensei had plunged his sword into the ground. Naruto realized this must mean that the war was over and they had won, but he could not remember what happened after he drew on Kyuubi's power. When Naruto asked her about it, she said that he lost control and was killing anything around him. She told him how the shogunate forces began to retreat, but he just kept on attacking. Then apparently Kenshin knocked him out with his sword, and that was the last Kyuubi knew what happened. Naruto assumed that Kenshin's second sword must have been his Sakabado, and since no one knew he had one, everyone must have thought him dead from being hit with the blade. Trying to keep his enemies from coming after him, Naruto decided not to let anyone know he had survived the battle. He would just head to the village and take a month off to rest up before he would have to start the academy. With Kyuubi's agreement to his decision, Naruto walked off the battlefield to begin the next chapter of his life. It had been a week since Naruto began to head to the village. Normally he could have reached it in only a few days, but Naruto decided to take his time and relax since he was in no hurry. Before setting out on his journey, Naruto had summoned Kyuubi in her human form to have someone to walk with as he traveled. He no longer was doing his double training in his mindscape since there was no longer a need to. The only reason he did so in the beginning was to be able to train in the shinobi arts as well as his training with the sword. Now that he was no longer training with Kenshin, he could combine his training in both fields throughout the day. Naruto would spend his day between a light training session in the morning, walking throughout the day, and at night, spending his time with Kyuubi in bed. Today however Kyuubi was not traveling with him due to her still being exhausted from the previous night's activities. This left Naruto alone to think over his plans for when he reached the village. Naruto planned that once he reached the village he would use a genjutsu to make himself appear as an 11-year-old version of his current self. He would need to do this because it would cause unneeded problems if he tried going through the academy as an 18-year-old with a bunch of 11-year-olds. Sure, there were genin still who are already in their 20s who have never been able to pass the Chunin exams, but as far as he knew no one had ever entered the academy at his age. Another thing he was sure of was that although he might hide the true extent of his skill, he would definitely not act like some stupid immature child. That was just something he could not bring himself to do. Once he returned to the village he would also have to talk with the old man. Naruto trusted the Hokage since he was one of the only 3 people who had ever looked out for him. He would tell the old man everything and see what he thought. Naruto wasn't nervous about telling the Hokage anything he had done since he did not regret the life he lived and instead was quite proud of it. Once Naruto finished the academy and was assigned a team he would get rid of his child genjutsu. Going through the academy looking like that was fine, but it would cause problems if he got into any fights. Plus there was not anything anyone could do once it was official that he was a shinobi of the leaf. The only one who could remove him was the Hokage, and only with just reason, which Naruto believed the old man would not do. This was also another reason for telling the Hokage everything. Naruto did not plan on staying at Genin long. As soon as the Chunin exams came along he would be sure to take them in order to move up in rank. He would then work to prove himself worthy of the title of Jounin. After that his next goal would be to complete his training his master had set for him. As Naruto continued to contemplate his plans as he walked, he was startled by a scream in the distance. Thinking that someone needed help, Naruto sped off towards the source of the scream. When Naruto arrived he hid in the brush, not wanting to go charging in without a handle on the situation. What Naruto saw enraged him. There were only a few things that could anger him so quickly, and rape was one of them. There were 4 Iwa nins, from what he could tell, holding down a very beaten and bruised woman with long brown hair, wearing a shredded red kimono. One was holding the woman's arms above her head, another was holding one of her legs, and another was holding the other leg. The fourth was just standing there laughing as events unfolded. There were also 3 more Iwa nins lying on the ground not moving, that Naruto assumed were dead. The woman currently being held down must have taken down 3 of them before she was overpowered. The 3 that were now holding her were alternating between beating the shit out of her and ripping away the rest of her dress. They had just ripped away the last shred of her clothing when the 4th man, who Naruto now assumed must be the leader, spoke up. "Okay bitch, now you're going to pay for fucking up our mission and killing our comrades," said the leader. "After we get done fucking that little body of yours, we're going to take pleasure in cutting off each and every one of your limbs. By the time we're done with you, you're going to be begging for death," continued the leader. The woman on the ground continued to squirm under the hold of the other men, with tears of fear in her eyes for what was about to happen to her. Seeing the woman's reaction, the leader just laughed. "This is what you get, slut, for killing the man we were getting paid to protect. You're going to be set as an example not to fuck with Iwa," said the man menacingly. By now the woman was begging for them not to do this and just kill her instead. Not listening to her pleas, the leader slowly walked over to her, undoing his pants, and positioned himself between her legs. Before the man had time to plunge himself into her, Naruto had decided he had seen enough. Naruto darted out from his cover, drawing his sword, and decapitated the leader with one swing of his blade. The body collapsed on top of the startled woman, spraying her with blood. Not wasting time to give the other nins a chance to get up and defend themselves, Naruto quickly killed each one with a slice each from his blade. After wiping off his sword and sheathing it, he approached the fearful woman. "Don't worry ma'am, I'm not going to hurt you, but I do think we need to get you some medical attention," Naruto reassured the woman. At this point the woman was so traumatized and exhausted she did the only thing she was capable of doing, she fainted. Sighing, Naruto took off his black trench coat and wrapped it around her naked form. Before taking off with the woman to get help, Naruto noticed a discarded leaf headband lying near the rest of the woman's now ruined clothes and realized she must be a Kunoichi of Konoha. He was only about a couple days' walk from the village, but because of the woman's condition, he would have to pick up the pace. After cancelling his gravity seal, Naruto raced off at full speed carrying the woman to Konoha. By mid-evening Naruto arrived at the village's gates. The Chunin guarding the gates took a defensive stance to Naruto's sudden arrival, but upon recognizing who he was carrying they immediately rushed to his side and asked what happened to Kurani-san, which Naruto assumed must be her name. Only giving a quick response that she was attacked by Iwa nins, the Chunin had the doors open immediately for him to pass. Naruto quickly rushed off to the hospital carrying the woman now identified as Kurani. After reaching the hospital and giving a quick overview of what he saw happen and what he suspected happened before he arrived to the nurse, Naruto left Kurani in the medical staff's capable hands. Once Naruto exited the hospital, a masked Anbu appeared and told Naruto the Hokage wished to speak with him. Upon telling the Anbu okay, he was led towards the Hokage tower. When they arrived, the Anbu went into the Hokage's office to announce his arrival. With a command to come in from the Hokage, Naruto entered. Naruto smiled seeing the face of the old man he had not seen in so many years. "Welcome, I would like to first thank you for rescuing Kurani-san. I fear that if you had not arrived when you did, she may have not survived. If I may, I would like to know your name," asked the Hokage, not recognizing the man. "I'm hurt, Aji-san. You mean you don't remember me? I mean, who else has blonde hair and whisker marks on their cheeks? I told you I'd be back in time to start at the academy," said Naruto in mock hurt. The Hokage's expression was priceless. He just sat there gaping like a fish out of water, realizing who this man was. "Naruto, is that really you? How did you grow so fast? What happened?" The Hokage sputtered out. "It's me, old man, and there is a lot we need to discuss," answered Naruto with a laugh. Over the course of the next hour, Naruto gave a brief overview of his life after leaving the village and everything that had happened. When Naruto was finished, the Hokage was shocked into silence. Upon recovering, the Sandaime spoke up. "Naruto, let me make sure I get this right. With the help of Kyuubi, you have been training for twice as long as time has passed for the rest of us, and because of an incident with her, which Sarutobi was shocked to learn the great Kyuubi was actually female, Chakra, you are now technically somewhere between the age of 18 and 23. You have been fighting in the rebellion and had achieved the rank of commander before it ended. You are actually Hitakiri Batausai, the deadly manslayer who has killed over 1,000 men. To top it all off, you are now Kyuubi's mate and an actual demon. Did I leave anything out, Naruto-kun?" Chuckled the Hokage at hearing the life Naruto has lived so far. "That's about it, old man. What I plan to do now is enter the academy by placing a Jinjutsu on myself to make me look like an 11-year-old of what I look like now, and once I graduate I will get rid of it since I will be an official Leaf Genin under your direct command, which means the council can't do anything about me being older than all the other Genins. As long as you don't mind, I will be able to work my way up to the level of Jounin, which my skill level is already at, and everything will be fine. I'll even help whatever team I'm on by help training them if you want," replied Naruto. "Well, it sounds like you got this planned out well enough, and I know you would be a help to whatever team you're placed on. I can't see any reason to stop you, so you have my approval. You will begin the academy in a week. I suggest you go ahead and activate your Jinjutsu to give people a chance to get used to you being back. Also, I kept your old apartment ready for when you return so you can set up there. I'm glad you're back, Naruto. I'm proud of everything you have accomplished, and I know you'll make a great shinobi," said the Hokage. "Thanks, Aji-san, that means a lot to me. I think I better head home and get things set up. I feel like making a special appearance at Ichiruka's for a little romance," said Naruto. "Okay, Naruto, well, off you go then," said the Hokage, dismissing Naruto. Before Naruto left the office, he activated his Jinjutsu. Naruto looked just like a miniature version of his current self at a tall 5'3" for the age of 11. He still had his long blonde hair in a ponytail and still had a slightly ripped athletic figure, being only a little less toned and muscular than his true form. He still wore his deep crimson tight-fitting t-shirt under a black Jounin-like vest to go along with his black cargo pants, but he was not wearing his back and crimson-lined trench coat since he had left it with Kurani, since she would have been naked without it. After activating the Jinjutsu, Naruto walked home to his old apartment where he put away everything he had kept in his storage scrolls from the base. When he was done unpacking, Naruto headed for his favorite restaurant in the village. Upon arriving, Naruto sat down on a stool and a young woman came to take his order. "What can I get for you today, sir?" asked the woman kindly. "Hi, Am-chan, I'd love 6 miso ramen please. It's been too long since I've had any of your father's wonderful cooking," said Naruto happily. Naruto's familiar tone caused Am to take a second look at him, and when she recognized who he was, she immediately called for her father. "Father, come out here, you're never going to believe who's here," Am called to her father. "Who is it, Am?" "I was busy cleaning up back there," said Ichiruka as he walked out of the kitchen. "What is it with people not recognizing me? I've only been gone 7 years," said Naruto, giving his old trademark foxy grin. Upon recognizing the man now in boy form, the old man smiled. "Well, if it isn't my best customer, Naruto. How have you been?" asked Ichiruka. "I've been good. I was just ordering 6 miso ramen from Am-chan here before she called you out here," said Naruto. "Right, I'll get those out right away, and I'll even make the first one on the house," said the old man, heading back into the kitchen. Naruto spent his meal eating and talking to Am as he tried to not go into detail about his past. When he was finished, Naruto said goodbye and paid his bill before heading home to get some rest. Over the course of the week, word had gotten around that the demon container was back and Naruto had to put up with their glares and mutterings of demon once again. However, now they really did have cause to call him demon, even if they didn't know it. It no longer bothered him what people thought, since he had come to realize he could only be himself, and if that was not enough for people, then it was their loss. Something different from before though was that he had unintentionally begun to collect a steadily growing group of fangirls around the age of what he appeared to be. Naruto knew he looked good for the age he was pretending to be, but to have little girls fawning over you was a little creepy for Naruto. He was used to fangirls, but not when they were so much younger than him. Kyuubi could only laugh at his predicament but stopped when he threatened that he would end their nightly activities for a month if she didn't stop. Kyuubi had become quite the vixen, and a threat of no sex for a month shut her up real quick. Naruto had taken a break that week from training in order to head to the library to learn what he could about the village's history since he had been gone. He also got a list of students that would be in his class and pictures to match from the Hokage since he would not know them since he had been away from the village for so long. When the day finally came for him to start at the academy, Naruto opted to leave his Jounin-like vest at home along with his sword and wore just his t-shirt and cargo pants in order to look more like a civilian. Naruto arrived early in the classroom and found he was the only one there yet. Deciding to take a seat, he waited for the others to show up. When the children began to file in, he noted a few individuals who caught his eye. The first to enter was a boy he recognized by the name of Shino. He seemed very much like the quiet type and just sat down, not even seeming to notice Naruto. The next to enter was a girl with dark indigo hair that Naruto recognized as the Hyuga heiress, Hinata. She was also appeared to be a quiet one, but when she met Naruto's eyes, she quickly looked away blushing and sat down. Just great, another fangirl for me. I can't wait to get out of this child disguise, maybe then all these children will stop looking at me like this, thought Naruto. Come on, Naruto-kun, I think it's sweet how you have so many little admirers, said Kyuubi, snickering. Just remember what I said before, you keep this up and no sex for a week, said Naruto. Kyuubi didn't have a reply. The next three to enter were a group of boys Naruto recognized as Kiba, Shikamaru, and Choji. Naruto's first impression was Kiba was a loud horn dog, Choji was loud and loved food, and Shikamaru was loud and lazy. The last three to enter that caught his eye was a boy and 2 girls who seemed to be fighting over him. Looks like I'm not the only one with fangirls, thought Naruto. Naruto recognized the boy as Sasuke, one of the last two Uchihas. To Naruto the boy seemed to have a sense of arrogance and very moody. Naruto thought the boy might also be gay with the way he seemed not to care for the girls following him. Sure, Naruto wasn't interested in his own fangirls, but that was because they were too young for them. If he was a little younger he would have jumped at the chance to go out with some of them. Now though it was just creepy. Naruto could only think of three things to explain Sasuke's actions. He was either just putting on an act to get more girls to like him, he was an idiot, or he was gay. Naruto was leaning towards the latter. Anyways, the other two girls he recognized by the names of Sakura and Ino. They were both now fighting to sit next to Sasuke, with the one named Sakura eventually winning. Upon being defeated, Ino noticed Naruto and to his horror, she promptly forgot about the brooding Uchiha and ran to sit next to him. She just sat there looking dreamy-eyed at him. God damn it, how many more fangirls am I going to get, grumbled Naruto mentally. Naruto glanced over at the Uchiha only to see the boy smirking at him. Damn you Uchiha, why can't you keep you fangirls to yourself? You just have to pawn them off on me, don't you, grumbled Naruto even more mentally. The class finally began when the teacher, a man named Iruka, showed up. They spent the first day just sitting while they listened to one big lecture about chakra and what it was. Naruto was so bored that he took a page out of Shikamaru's book and took a nap. Iruka woke him up once and asked him to answer the question he just asked, but was surprised when Naruto answered it correctly after only having to repeat the question. Naruto just went back to sleep afterwards. Naruto spent the next few months at the academy sleeping almost as much as Shikamaru. The class was now split into girls who were now fangirls of either Naruto or Sasuke. Kiba would often voice his complaints about not seeing what was so great about either of them, but would just be rewarded by a bop on the head by a near female. Ino had lost interest in Sasuke and now sat beside him during every class, constantly asking for a date just like Sakura did with Sasuke. Naruto had come to see Ino as a sweet girl with a lot more potential than Sakura if she would just get over this crush she had on him. He didn't want to hurt her feelings, but knew if she kept this up, it would hurt her progress as a ninja. Besides, she was still too young for him, he just couldn't tell her that yet. Hinata had also continued to watch Naruto from afar, but was just too shy to do anything about it, unlike Ino. Naruto really needed to find a way to get rid of these fangirl, them fawning over him was just a waste of their time. Naruto had also become the #1 contender to become Rookie of the Year, earning him Sasuke's constant challenges. If he was bored and wanted to have a little fun, he would occasionally accept those challenges just so he could kick the arrogant boy's ass. Whenever he was done beating the boy up though, he would have to sit through a berating of one of Sasuke's fangirls, usually Sakura, until one of his own fangirls, usually Ino, shut them up. Occasionally this would erupt into one giant catfight among almost all the girls of the class, much to the enjoyment of the guys. It seemed though, no matter how many times he would beat the Uchiha up, he would just challenge him again a week later. Naruto had now changed his opinion of Sasuke being gay to that of him being an idiot and possibly gay. Naruto beating the Uchiha had another effect as well, he had now become much more liked by the males of the class when they saw him put Sasuke in his place. Kiba had even stopped hounding him about hugging all the girls after Naruto beat up the Uchiha, effectively becoming the boy's role model. Naruto really did not know what he did to Wakami, but he was getting tired of all this attention. Maybe he should have pretended to be some idiot, but then he would probably have been stuck on the same team as the breeding bastard. Naruto did not know how one kid could get on his nerves so much. He usually liked kids in general. As even more months passed, Naruto had finally taken Ino up on a date, but only to set her straight on a few things. He had told her that she really needed to stop fawning over him so much. He let her know that he thought she could be a much better ninja if she just focused more on training than she did on boys. He also let her know that guys found strong women much more appealing than a girl that just followed them around all the time. The thing that finally convinced her was that it would also make her strong enough to be able to kick Sakura's ass anytime she wanted. This immediately got her attention and she took Naruto's advice to heart. She no longer sat next to him in class and instead found a quieter place to sit so she could pay attention. He had already noticed a vast improvement in her over the course of the months. Naruto had also began to talk with Kiba more, trying to give him a few pointers in how to get girls, since he realized that until he got one, Kiba would be unable to focus completely on getting better. Naruto had decided to try to kill two birds with one stone by sitting next to the boy and occasionally talking him up in hopes of getting Hinata to pass on her crush to the dog boy. Kiba seemed like a much better fit for her. Kiba had a loud, obnoxious personality that Hinata's shy, quiet one would balance out perfectly. Naruto, however, had yet to make much progress. Maybe once Hinata saw how old he really was, she would stop trying to go after him and focus on Kiba. Naruto had yet to have much interaction with Shino, Shikamaru, or Choji. He had nothing against them, he was just tired of dealing with so many children, and the ones he did converse with were enough for him to socialize with. It was finally the last week of the academy and Naruto couldn't be happier. This had literally been the most boring year of his life. He had gone every day to the academy only to learn things he was already far past in skill and knowledge. In order to make up for the waste of time, Naruto was forced to do his normal training once class was over for the day. With the combination of everything, Naruto felt like he had no time at all to relax. It seemed Naruto's schedule was made up of going to the academy, training afterwards, finding time to eat and use the restroom, then going to sleep before doing it all over again. He hadn't even been able to relieve Kyuubi's urges all that often, which she has been very unhappy about. Naruto was so frustrated that he really felt the urge to kill something which he hadn't done for almost a year. During the final week, Naruto sat through a number of written exams and review sessions. He was about to go mad when the final day came for the practical exam. When it was finally his turn to perform a simple bushin for his practical, he ended up going overboard, creating enough versions of himself to fill the entire room. Needless to say, Naruto passed with the title of Rookie of the Year. This also really pissed off Sasuke, and somehow Sakura came up with the idea that Naruto cheated. How do you cheat at forming enough bushins to fill a room? After Naruto received his headband, he decided to wear it as a belt instead of on his head like normal. Kyuubi was adamantly against him wearing it on his head, saying that she liked how his bangs came down his face and she didn't want some stupid headband messing it up. Once all the exams were finished, Iruka told everyone that passed to return the next day for team assignments. As soon as Naruto exited the academy, he was confronted by an Anbu telling him that the Hokage would like to see him and then disappeared. Curious to what the old man could want, Naruto took off towards the Hokage tower. Upon entering the Hokage's office, he was greeted by the old man. "Hello Naruto, I just received word that you made Rookie of the Year." "No surprise there, huh," said the Hokage. "Hi old man. Yeah, I guess after being trained by a 1,000-year-old demon," at which point Kyuubi growled about him bringing up her age, "and a samurai master, the academy was kind of boring," said Naruto. "I have no doubt about that. Now Naruto, the reason I called you here is to give you advance warning to the team I plan to have you on. Kakashi has personally requested you and Sasuke to be put on his team. When he heard of your skills and being named Rookie of the Year, he immediately requested you. He also requested Sasuke since he will eventually have the Sharingan like himself," said the Hokage. At this, Naruto just raised an eyebrow that said, "Are you kidding me?" But before he could say anything, the old man continued. "I, however, told him that I could not do this because it would overpower his team and that he would just have to settle for Sasuke since the boy would need special training once his Sharingan becomes active. As this may be true, it was not the real reason I did not want to place you on his team. For almost a year now, Yuhi Kurani has been undergoing psychological treatment for what she had almost experienced when you found her. She has just been cleared for a little over a week now, but I don't believe she is ready to go back to solo jounin missions. The doctor said that they have done all they can and that they can think of is give her time. Kurani, however, seems desperate to prove herself worthy of the title of jounin, so I have assigned her as a jounin sensei. I would like to place you on her team and have you watch out for her on any dangerous mission you may have to undertake. She will probably be more comfortable once you dispel your Jinjutsu and she recognizes you. Ever since you rescued her, she has been asking what became of you. She even still has your coat and says she wanted to return it to you. I would also appreciate it if you could also help her train your fellow teammates as you suggested when you first returned to the village," said the Hokage. "Of course, I'd be happy to help. It was horrible what almost happened to her. I just wish I acted sooner so she wouldn't have had to suffer so long. I would like to make a request for who my teammates be though," said Naruto. "And who might they be?" asked the Hokage. "I wish to be paired with Inuzuka Kiba and Hyuga Hinata. I can see a lot of potential in the two of them and believe they could work well together. Hinata has a very timid and quiet personality, while Kiba's is loud and aggressive. I believe that they would balance each other out and hopefully be a positive influence on each other," said Naruto. "I think that is a good idea. I was thinking along similar lines and think they would work together well too. Okay, tomorrow you will be placed on teammate with Kiba and Hinata with Kurane as your jounin sensei. You should probably go home and get some rest. I'm sure after the week you probably had, you could use it," said the Hokage. Taking that as his dismissal, Naruto left the office and headed home. When he got inside his house and made sure it was secure, he summoned Kyuubi, masking his chakra in the process, as not to raise any suspicion. "Hi Naru-kun, not that I mind, but why did you summon me, don't you have training to do?" Kyuubi asked. "Not today, Kyu-chan. I decided to take the day off after the week I've had. I also wanted to spend some time with you since we've had so little since I started the academy," said Naruto, as he gave her a hug and led her over to the bed. "No, this is not turning into a lemon. So what did you have in mind?" asked Kyuubi suggestively as she sat down onto the bed. "Not that, Kyu-chan, or at least not right away. I wanted to know what you thought about the team I'm being placed on," said Naruto, earning a pout from Kyuubi about not having sex. "Well, if you really want my opinion, I think this is about the best we could have hoped for. You could teach your teammates a lot and create a strong team. Plus what the Hokage said is correct, I think this Kurani would do well with you around. You may also want to consider her as a potential mate depending on how she acts toward you. She would probably be very loyal to you for what you did for her, she is very beautiful and she must be strong if she's a jounin. Kyuubi said. I wasn't really thinking along those lines, Kyu-chan. I mean she was very traumatized by what happened to her and I don't want to take advantage of her. Naruto said. Before Kyuubi could respond, Naruto continued. But if she does show interest, I won't just turn her down either. Depending on what she's like, I'll consider it. I will also try to be as friendly as possible to help her get over what happened. Said Naruto. Okay, I guess that's acceptable. I do think she may have taken a liking to you. I mean she has kept your coat for almost a year. Not many people would do that if they didn't have a reason. It's not even like she can wear it. She's like what, around 5'8" and you're 6'2". The thing would be massive on her. Said Kyuubi. Fine, can we drop this please? How about I scratch that little itch you've had for the past week instead? Naruto said. At hearing this, Kyuubi immediately dropped the subject. Kyuubi loved her special Naruto time and she had not gotten any since before this week's exams began. The rest of the day Naruto spent relieving all of Kyuubi's needs until they finally passed out from exhaustion. Still not feeling sleepy though, Naruto headed out for a walk. As Naruto was walking through the village that night, he noticed a child that looked to be running away from someone and was carrying a rather large bag on his back. Having his curiosity piqued, Naruto accidentally tripped the boy. When the boy wasn't looking, he switched the contents of the bag, which turned out to be a large scroll with a log using a substitution jutsu. After the boy ran off, Naruto headed to a nearby woods to see what he had. When Naruto opened the scroll, he found that it was actually the forbidden scroll of the leaf. Inside were all kinds of information from Kenjutsus to advanced seals. Seeing one that really interested him, Naruto quickly copied it down onto a blank scroll he had on him as a sort of payment for stopping the theft. When he was done, he returned the scroll back to the Hokage to learn that it was stolen by a boy who had failed the academy exams. He was told by Mizuki, a teacher at the academy, that if the boy learned a jutsu from the scroll, he would be allowed to become a ninja. When the scroll was discovered missing, a search team was sent out. Iruka found the boy and found out what happened, but when Mizuki found them and attacked, the boy was killed. Iruka was able to stall Mizuki long enough for the Anbu to find them and effectively subdue the traitor. After being thanked, Naruto left and headed back to the forest to try to learn the new jutsu. It took him half the night, but Naruto finally got it. By the time he returned to his house, Naruto was exhausted. He promptly got into bed without waking Kyuubi and fell asleep. The next day Naruto woke up still a little tired from last night's outing. Once Kyuubi returned to the mindscape, Naruto got dressed and this time included his vest and sword. Now that he was officially a ninja, there was no reason to hide so much. Sure, he wouldn't flaunt his skills just to look good, but it no longer mattered if anyone found out about the true extent of his skills. After he was ready, Naruto locked his apartment with a few locking seals he had learned that Kyuubi knew and headed for the academy. Naruto was the last to show up and just barely made it on time. By the time he sat down, Iruka walked in the door. Okay everybody, listen up. I will now hand out team assignments. Team 7 under Hada Kakashi will be Shino Aburam, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. Said Iruka. At this point Sakura yelled out her joy at being on the same team as her precious Asuke-kun and told Ino to take that. Ino just ignored Sakura, no longer having interest in the Uchiha boy. Teammate under Yuhi Kurani will be Inyazuka Kiba, Uzumaki Naruto, and Hyuga Hinata. Finally, since Team 9 is already active, Team 10 under Sarutobi Asuma will be Nara Shikamaru, Akamichi Chouji, and Yamanaka Ino. Please wait patiently until your Jounin sensei arrives. Said Iruka before leaving. Naruto sat patiently with his team for about a half hour. He already knew Kurani had been here since Iruka announced the team, but saw no point in ruining her fun. When Asuma showed up to collect his team though, Naruto decided they waited long enough. Come on guys, follow me. Said Naruto to his teammates. Naruto then led the confused duo down towards the hidden Kurani. Kurani-sensei, I'm sorry to ruin your fun, but I and my teammates are getting bored sitting around and wondered if we would get this over with, said Naruto with a grin. Kiba and Hinata were just about to ask Naruto why he was talking to a wall when Kurani dispelled the Jinjutsu. Well, I am pleased that at least one of my pupils has some skill at detecting Jinjutsus. Though, I kind of expected it would be the Hyugi with those eyes of hers, said Kurani friendly with smile that seemed a little forced for Naruto. Okay, you three meet me on top of the roof and we'll begin, said Kurani, and with that she disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto could have done his own version of Sushin, but decided against showing off. The three of them casually took the stairs and headed up to the roof. When they arrived, they were greeted by Kurani, who was waiting on them. Why don't you three get comfortable and we'll start off with introductions. Tell me your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dream. Kurani said. Once everyone was comfortable, Hinata spoke up. "Why don't you go first sensei and show us what to do," stuttered Hinata timidly. "Fine, my name's Yuhi Kurane and I'm your Jounin sensei. My likes are spending time with my friends and relaxing at the bathhouse. My dislikes are perverts and people who show off. My hobbies are cooking and learning new genjutsus. And my dream for now is to make you three the best team possible and eventually all fellow Jounins," said Kurenai. "I'll go next. My name's Inuzuka Kiba. My likes are my animal companion Akumaru and spending time with beautiful girls. My dislikes are arrogant bastard know-it-alls who hog all the girls. My hobby is picking up girls. And my dream is to become the leader of my clan and have a wife," said Kiba with a grin. "Just great a horn dog," thought Kurenai. "I guess I'll go next. My name is Hyuga Hinata. My likes are nice people, looks over at Naruto and blushes. My dislikes are people who look down on others. My hobby is to learn my family's techniques. And my dream is to combine the main and branch families of the Hyuga clan when I become its leader," said Hinata stuttering the whole time. "Looks like I got a lot of work ahead of me to work on that girl's confidence," thought Kurenai. "It just leaves me then. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. My likes are Roman and people who see me for me. My dislikes are arrogant people and people who hate for no reason. My hobby is to train. And my dream is to become strong enough to protect everyone I care about and eventually have a family," said Naruto. "Now that's ironic, the kid with the demon inside him is the most normal one of all," thought Kurenai. "Also now that we're on the same team and I no longer need to hide this, there is something I need to show you all," said Naruto. After seeing everyone's curious face, including his Jounin sensei, Naruto dispelled the jutsu covering him. He returned to his 6'2" height, his muscles returning to their true tone and size, and his face took on its more mature look. Hinata immediately passed out realizing her crush was actually what looked to be a 20-year-old man. Kiba too passed out realizing his idol was a man instead of a boy. Kurenai just stood there in disbelief seeing the man who had saved her almost 1 year ago. When Kurenai finally got over her shock, she launched herself at Naruto, nearly knocking him over and enveloped him in a hug, crying into his should while she kept on repeating "thank you." Naruto did the only thing he could think of and wrapped his arms around her telling her it was alright trying to comfort the woman. As Naruto held her, Kurenai eventually cried herself to sleep. Deciding that Kiba and Hinata would be fine on the roof until they awoke, Naruto sunshined Kurenai and himself back to his apartment since he did not know where the woman lived. Naruto carried the sleeping Kurenai over to his bed and tried to lay her down, but when he tried to pull away the woman would not let go. Being glad that Kyuubi was currently napping in his head, Naruto was forced to lay down with Kurenai. The woman just seemed to snuggle up closer to Naruto, which he didn't even bother to fight anymore. Naruto just wrapped his arms around her, earning a sigh from the woman, and decided to get a little rest. Later that day Naruto awoke to find that Kurenai was still asleep and using his chest as a pillow. Kurenai must have noticed a change in Naruto's breathing because a little later she too woke up. Not knowing where she was and not noticing the man she was using as a pillow, Kurenai slowly sat up and looked around. When she finally did notice Naruto she was a little shocked but calmed down when she verified they were both fully clothed. Naruto-kun, where are we and why are we in bed together? It's not that I mind, you do make a rather good pillow, but I am a little curious," joked Kurenai a little embarrassed at the situation she was in. "You see, when you were kind of thanking me you fell asleep and since I didn't know where you lived, I brought you back to my apartment to rest. When I tried to lay you down on the bed though, you wouldn't let go of me and since I didn't want to wake you, I laid down beside you and kinda fell asleep too. You don't have to worry, I didn't do anything inappropriate while you were asleep," said Naruto. When Kurenai remembered how she acted, she blushed and tried to apologize. "Sorry about that, I got kind of carried away, it's just that I've wanted to say thank you for what you did for so long, but no one had any idea what happened to you or even who you were. I suspected the Hokage did, but he wouldn't give me a yes or no answer about having knowledge of your identity. He only said he was sure we'd meet again. I never thought I'd be your sensei," laughed Kurenai. "Yeah, about that, I'm sorry I didn't stick around longer, but I needed to hide my true identity until I was an official ninja. I knew the council would make an exception for the demon container to enter the academy at my age, and there was no way in hell they would just grant me the title of ninja," explained Naruto. "You're probably right about that, I just don't know why they keep insisting that you're a demon just because you have a demon inside you," Kurenai said making Naruto a little uncomfortable. "Oh well, not much I can do about it. So how have you been since the incident?" asked Naruto trying to change the subject. Realizing Naruto didn't want to talk about his unique situation, Kurenai took the bait for a change of subject. "I'm better, I still have little incidents once in a while, but I can at least stand to be around other men now. In the beginning, the mere presence of a guy scarred me. That was one of the reasons me and Asuma broke up, he just couldn't understand I needed my space. You're actually the first guy I feel at peace around. If I woke up next to any other guy in bed I would probably had a panic attack. I'm just glad I had my friend Anko to keep me company. She made sure to keep the guys away while I was recovering. I think she actually had fun scarring any guy that got near me. Laughed Kurani, a little embarrassed at her problem. That's completely normal, Kurani-sensei. After what you almost went through, almost anyone would have your problem. Reassured Naruto. Please Naruto-kun, call me Kurani-chan. After what you have done, I consider you a dear friend of mine. Said Kurani. Thank you, Kurani-chan. I'm honored you consider me a friend. I just wish I could have been around to help you through your ordeal. Said Naruto. Actually, you kinda did. Ever since that day I have kinda used your code as a sort of security blanket at night. I know it sounds stupid, but it really did make me feel better knowing I had something of the man who saved me. Said Kurani, blushing a little, thinking Naruto would laugh at her confession. I don't think it's stupid at all, Kurani-chan. It is actually fairly common to latch on to something as a form of comfort after a traumatic event, be it a person or an inanimate object. I just happy my coat could be that for you. Said Naruto sincerely. Thanks Naruto-kun, but I still want to give you back your coat. I don't feel I need it anymore, and besides now I got you on my team, which is even better. Said Kurani cheerfully. No problem, but I'll only take it back if you're sure you no longer need it. Said Naruto. I'm sure, responded Kurani. Okay then. So do you think we should go check on Kiba and Hinata? I'm a little curious what they've been up to since they probably woke up. I know for a fact that Kiba's interested in Hinata, so I wanted to give him some time alone with her, but I also want to make sure he didn't do something stupid to get her to kick his ass. I could just see Kiba making some perverted dog comment to Hinata and her closing the tenketsus in his groin. Just the thought makes me cringe. Said Naruto in mock horror. You're probably right. From what I could tell, Kiba seemed a little bit like a horn dog. Laughed Kurani. But he is, but he's also a good kid. He seems to have a fair bit of loyalty and he's dependable. I guess he's a dog in more ways than one, huh? Naruto said. If you say so, but you're right, we should probably go check on your teammates. They're probably wondering what happened to us too. Said Kurani. Finishing their conversation, Kurani and Naruto took off for the roof they had their first team meeting at. When they got there, sure enough, Kiba and Hinata had already awoken and left. They did at least leave a note saying they had gone home and if they were needed they could be reached there. Realizing it was getting late, Kurani and Naruto parted ways, with Kurani telling Naruto the team would be meeting tomorrow morning at 7 at Training Ground 8 and that she would let the other two know. When Naruto got home, he summoned Kyuubi once more to talk to her about the day's events before bed. I told you so. Said Kyuubi as soon as she appeared. What are you talking about? Asked Kyuubi as the two got in bed. I told you that woman liked you, Naruto-kun, said Kyuubi as she snuggled up to Naruto. What gave it away? How she was practically throwing herself at me, or how about the part where she said I was the only guy she felt at peace with around? Naruto said sarcastically. I think she literally did throw herself at you if I remember correctly, and I was actually referring to how she has already slept with you in bed while using your chest as a pillow. Kyuubi said with a grin. How do you know about that? I thought you were taking a nap at the time. Naruto asked. That's what I wanted you to think. You give me such juicy things to tease you with when you think I'm not looking. Kyuubi laughed. Whatever, what I actually wanted to talk to you about was what we should tell everyone tomorrow. Kurani already knows you're sealed inside me, so I could tell her that's how I aged so fast, but Kiba and Hinata don't, and I don't want to tell them about me until they get to know the real me better. Said Naruto. Personally, I think it's none of their business, but if you feel you need to tell them something, just say you trained in a place where time passed slower and leave it at that. You don't owe an explanation to anyone. Said Kyuubi. I guess you're right, but they're not going to like it. Naruto replied. I don't care and I'm tired of talking about this. Whatever happens happens. Now I got an itch and you have just the tool needed to scratch it, so get to scratching. Kyuubi said seductively as she undid her kimono. Damn woman, are you sure you were virgin before me? Asked Naruto jokingly. I'm a 1,000-year-old demon fox, Naruto-kun. I have a lot of time to make up for. Kyuubi replied before the two of them commenced with another long night of lovemaking. The next day when Naruto arrived at Training Ground 8, he was greeted by the faces of Kiba and Hinata. Kurani was not there yet, but it was still early and would probably be there soon. Hey guys, how you feeling this morning? You took a pretty rough fall when you both fainted yesterday. Naruto grinned in greeting. What the hell, man? First we find out you're some kind of adult instead of a kind, then you and sensei just up and leave us on a roof unconscious. I thought adults were supposed to be the responsible ones, and speaking of adults, how the fuck are you one anyways? Kiba shouted when Naruto got his attention. Sorry about that guys, but something came up and I would prefer to wait until your sensei gets here before I answer any questions so I don't have to repeat myself. Naruto said. After waiting a few minutes, Kurani showed up just on time carrying Naruto's trench coat under one arm. Here you go, Naruto-kun, sorry for almost being late like Kakashi. I actually forgot to bring your coat when I first left, so I had to go back and get it," said Kurani as she handed Naruto the coat. After giving the coat a quick inspection and seeing it was still in good condition, even if it did smell a little feminine, Naruto put the coat on. "Thanks Kurani-sensei, it really is my favorite coat." Laughed Naruto at his own lame joke since this was actually his only coat. "No problem, but I already told you to call me Kurani-chan. From what I can remember of what skills of yours I've already seen, I doubt there is much for me to teach you," Kurani said. Naruto-san, is it okay if we ask you a few questions now?" asked Hinata timidly, interrupting the two. "Oh, I'm sorry Hinata-chan, I completely forgot. Also, you don't have to be so formal, you never were before you found out I'm an adult and I would appreciate it if that didn't change now," Naruto said as he took a seat to get comfortable, knowing this little interrogation could take a while. "Thanks, Naruto-kun." Hinata said a little more at ease as she too took a seat getting comfortable. But that Kiba sat down beside Hinata in front of Naruto and Kurani, Naruto took note of, sat down right beside him a little too close for his comfort. Kyuubi was just snickering inside Naruto's head at the woman's blatant actions. After a small bit of silence, Kiba spoke up. "Okay Naruto, can please tell us how the hell you're some massive adult when you should just be a 12-year-old kid?" Kiba asked without any tact whatsoever. "Well Kiba, if you must know, when I was about 4 I was adopted and left the village. While I was gone I was trained by him and someone else. During this time, because of special circumstances that I am not willing to talk about now, I trained at half the speed of time as it passed for you, and in combination with an additional incident I do not wish to speak of, I am now roughly between the age of 19 to 24. Answered Naruto. "How can you not know how old you are, and why won't you tell us about these circumstances?" Kiba asked once more. "I am not sure how old I am because of the nature of these special circumstances I talked about, and I won't tell you about them because it is none of your business and it won't negatively affect this team in any manner." Naruto answered once more, remaining calm, even if Kiba was being kinda rude with his questions. "Also, before any of you ask, I am not willing to talk about my past. Over the course of my life I have made many enemies and they would just love to know where I am so they could try to kill me. They would not succeed, but it would still be a pain to have to deal with them. All I want to do is start a new life as a ninja of this village," Naruto said before more questions could be asked. Seeing that Naruto was getting a little tired with all these questions, Kurani spoke up. "I think Naruto-kun's answered enough questions for today and we should respect his privacy. He already told us what we needed to know," Kurani said. "Now, I think it's time I give you guys your true test to decide if you are ready to be genins," smiled Kurani. "Kurani-chan, I don't think that's necessary. If you're planning on giving us the old bell test like Kakashi does, you might need these," Naruto said, holding 2 bells. Seeing Naruto holding the 2 bells, Kurani searched all over her body trying to find the bells she brought. "But how when?" Kurani stuttered, realizing that somehow since she arrived Naruto had already nabbed her bells without her even noticing. "Come on Kurani-chan, if you actually tried to test us I alone could probably kill you without much trouble. I'm not saying you're weak or anything, but I'm fairly confident that if I wanted to, I could even take on Kakashi with his Sharingan active and win. I'm not strong enough to take on someone like Itachi by any means yet, but a little genin test is really just a waste of time. I will personally vouch for my 2 teammates that they are ready. I was the one who requested to the Hokage that they be put on my team. I will take responsibility to make sure nothing happens to anyone on my team," Naruto stated and put extra emphasis on the word anyone as he looked Kurani in the eye. "Fine, I'll trust your judgment Naruto-kun, but this just means we'll begin training today instead of tomorrow like I had planned if you had passed the test. We'll begin with tree climbing to work on your guys' chakra control. I like to specialize in genjutsus and chakra control is essential to be any good at them. I want to be able to impart my knowledge onto you, but before I can do that I need to get your control up to par," Kurani said. But that Kurani led her team over to a set of trees. "How the hell can climbing a tree help us any at controlling our chakra?" asked Kiba, not seeing the point. "I think what Kurani-chan means is that she wants you two to climb the tree without the use of your hands." "Don't be an idiot Naruto, that's not possible," stated Kiba. "Actually Kiba, that's exactly what I want you 3 to do," said Kurani, not noticing Naruto's raised eyebrow when she said 3. Kurani-chan, I think I may be just a little past tree climbing," said Naruto. "I'm sure you are Naruto-kun, I meant for you to be the one to demonstrate for your fellow teammates," said Kurani with an implied duh. "Oh, okay you two, the trick is to channel your chakra into your feet, but just enough so you can stick to the tree. If you use too much you will repel yourself from the tree, and if you don't use enough you will slip and fall off," Naruto said as he demonstrated for them by walking up the tree with ease and then hanging underneath a branch to emphasize his point. Naruto then dropped down from the tree and landed in a crouch before he spoke once more. "I learned it helps if you start out by running and using a kunai to mark your progress," Naruto said, earning a nod of approval from Kurani. While Kiba and Hinata went ahead attempting to climb the tree, Kurenai approached Naruto. That was a very good explanation, Naruto-kun. Maybe you should think of becoming a sensei once you become a jounin, said Kurenai. I don't think so, Kurenai-chan. The way I was trained and taught would probably kill most children, and that's the only way I would know to teach them. It's a kind of make it or break it style of teaching. It will make you a great ninja, but you can't be exactly normal to begin with, not to mention the amount of determination you must have. I think I'll leave most of the teaching to you and just add a few tips every now and then. Besides, ever since I was 4 I was practically raised for combat and killing. I don't regret it since that was what I asked for, but I kind of get a little fidgety if I don't get to fight someone for a long time, Naruto said. Deciding to not ask what Naruto's training was like till later, Kurenai responded. Well, that's too bad. I really think you could teach kids a lot. I am a little curious though what you plan to do since you are already past what I'll be teaching your teammates. Kurenai asked. The Hokage mainly wanted me to serve in an assistant teaching role. I will leave most of the teaching to you, but when you need some help explaining or demonstrating something, all you need to do is ask. When I'm not needed here, I'll be off somewhere a little more private to continue my training I was in the middle of before returning to the village. Just tell me the day before if you will need help with anything. I will also of course be helping with any missions the team is assigned, said Naruto. Oh, I guess that's okay. Kurenai said, a little disappointed that Naruto would not be around that much. Somehow sensing the source of Kurenai's disappointment, Naruto spoke up. Since I'll probably not be around a lot, feel free to stop by my apartment anytime you like to hang out. You said it yourself that we're friends and I wouldn't mind spending time with you. Also remember what I said, all you have to do is let me know you need my help here with something and I'll be sure to stop by. Naruto said, trying to cheer the woman up. Thanks, Naruto-kun, I'd like that. If you wouldn't mind though, I'd like for you to stick around today so we can spend the first day as a team. Kurenai said, a little brighter since Naruto invited her to spend time with him anytime she wanted. That sounds fine to me, but how about we discuss what you got planned to teach Kiba and Hinata while they continue to work on those trees? Naruto said. The rest of the morning Naruto and Kurenai spent writing up a training regime while the other 2 genins worked on the tree exercise. When training was finished that day, Naruto told his team that he had to go and had things to take care of. After Naruto left, he began to search for a new area to train at. Where he had previously been training had recently been claimed by Team 7 and Naruto was forced to find a new place that he would not be disturbed. Every training ground Naruto went to either did not fit his needs or was already claimed by a team. After searching most of the day, Naruto finally had some success. He had found a place to train that would offer him complete privacy and no one would bother him, at least no one sane. It was a huge forest with a number of deadly plants and animals. Naruto would be able to completely focus on learning the scrolls Kenshin had given him. And Naruto, it personally wasn't that bad from what he read about it. For someone like him and what he was used to, it even sounded kind of homey. As Naruto walked into the forest, he made note of the sign on the outside. It read Training Ground 44 and someone had carved underneath the title Forest of Death with what appeared to be a kunai. Naruto just shrugged and calmly walked inside to set up his new training area, completely unaware that someone was currently watching him with a sadistic smirk and lust for blood. As Naruto casually walked through the woods, he couldn't help but smirk. This really is a training ground paradise. I don't understand why everybody doesn't want to train here, Naruto thought. Not everybody is attracted to danger like you, Naru-kun. Kyuubi thought back. But Kyu-chan, it has everything. You got nice little animals, interesting plants, plenty of space, raw materials, and once I find a stream it will be perfect. Once again, Naru-kun, your views of this place is an understatement. The nice little animals you're talking about could eat your average genin, and some are bigger than you. Your interesting plants are poisonous enough to almost instantly kill any human. Then to top it off, the forest is big enough for someone to get lost in and never find their way out. Only the craziest and skilled ninjas would even think of coming in here, said Kyuubi. Come on, Kyu-chan, it's not that bad. Besides, don't you think I fit the bill perfectly to train here? But you do, Naru-kun. Kyuubi chuckled. Naruto just continued exploring the forest with a smile on his face. After a few more minutes of silence, Kyuubi got bored and spoke up again, deciding to tease Naruto some. You know, Naru-kun, I think I caught Kurenai staring at your cock earlier today. Kyuubi said, even though she saw no such thing. What are you talking about and where does this come from all of a sudden? Naruto stuttered, shocked at this out of the blue comment. Come on, Naru-kun, you know she wants it. All she needs is a little encouragement to know you're interested, said Kyuubi playfully. And what makes you think I'm even interested in her? Don't be like that. Whatever happened to that sick sadistic bastard on the battlefield that used to fuck any woman that looked your way? Kyuubi mocked Naruto. That was different and you know it. Back then I wasn't looking for anything serious and the women I was with weren't either. We were in a war and every day we didn't know if it would be our last. We just wanted to get as much out of life as we could at the time. Besides, I've matured past that and am no longer the horny teenager that was a slave to his hormones. I can also tell that Kurani isn't the type of woman who would be into a one-night stand. If anything did happen, it would have to be on a more lasting basis, and I don't know her well enough to get into something like that with her. As for the sadistic part, I still am that way, but I just haven't had the chance to let that part of myself loose yet. I've been trying to keep my Batausai side under wraps, remember? Said Naruto. You can still be yourself a little more. Try flirting around with Kurani and some of the other women. You don't have to follow through with anything, just have some fun getting them all hot and bothered. I know what you're really like, Naruto-kun, no matter how much you've been trying to hide it. You enjoy spilling the blood of your victims in battle. You also enjoy having women fawn over you. It makes you feel good about yourself compared to how you felt like crap when you were younger. I understand that when you were pretending to be a kid that the attention was a little creepy, but now that you're back to your oh so manly self, you can have women your own age after you again. Kyuubi said. Fine, I admit I do like the fangirls and I do have fun flirting, but why are you so insistent on this? Naruto asked. What can I say, I enjoy knowing I have a mate so desired by other women. It's nice knowing that with all the women after you that you chose me as your first mate. So this is mainly one big ego boost for you. Naruto deadpanned. Yep. Kyuubi cheerfully replied. Naruto just scowled, grumbling about egotistic vixens. Don't be like that, Naruto-kun, you know I got your best interests at heart too. If you just be yourself, it will also get the women of Konoha on your side. This would make staying here not so bad, since you wouldn't have to deal with as many people's hatred. Sure, you may have a few more angry males, but who cares about them? Sometimes you just got to use the weapons you got, and in your case it's your charm and looks. Fine, you win, but do you think we can drop this for now? I'm getting kind of tired of this conversation. Naruto sighed, ending the conversation. After about a half hour, Naruto finally came upon what he considered a stream. Naruto-kun, that's a raging river, not a stream. Kyuubi deadpanned. Close enough, Naruto replied nonchalantly. After surveying the area, Naruto commenced to clear the area of any trees to create his training ground. He drew his sword, disappearing in a flash, and then returned to where he was standing a few moments later, appearing to have done nothing. When Naruto sheathed his sword, every tree in a 50-meter radius toppled over outwards. Naruto just looked around, inspecting his new surroundings. I do good work. Naruto said out loud right before he casually moves his head to the side, avoiding a thrown kunai. You know, it's not very nice to spy on people, Naruto said, not moving from where he stood right before a woman jumped out from where she was concealed. The woman appeared to be in her early 20s and had a spiked short purple ponytail. She was dressed in one of the most provocative outfits Naruto had ever seen. She wore a very short brown miniskirt, tight fishnet shirt that accentuated her C-cup, and long-sleeved brown trench coat over top it all. Her overall appearance left very little to the imagination. Naruto, however, did not let his approval of her show on his face. Oh, but Anko wanted to play and you look so fun, said the woman in a disturbing baby-like pout as a smirk graced her face. Sorry babe, but I don't think you're ready for my kind of fun. Most people don't live too long afterwards. Naruto said in a foreboding voice with his own smirk. Not liking to be called babe, Anko charged at the man with another drawn kunai. She then slashed at Naruto, not intending to do anything fatal, but just to teach him some respect. Naruto just casually dodged her slash and pinched her on the ass for fun. This only made Anko angrier and provoked her to unleash two snakes from her sleeves to attack him. Seeing that the woman was starting to get serious, Naruto knew he would have to subdue her pretty soon, or this was going to become an all-out fight with him possible having to injure her in the end. Naruto made a quick set of hand seals and called out Kage Bushin no Jutsu, creating two clones of himself. The clones quickly charged Anko, dodging the snakes at a speed that surprised her and grabbed hold of each of her arms, restraining her. Before she had time to react, the real Naruto appeared behind and chopped her on the back of the neck, knocking her out. I wonder if this is the same Anko that Kurani was talking about earlier, Naruto thought out loud. Deciding that the best thing to do at the moment would be to just wait till the woman woke up, Naruto took a seat on a stump and began to look over one of his training scrolls. After about 15 minutes, Anko began to wake back up. On my head, I really need to learn not to go overboard drinking at night. Moaned Anko, not sure where she was. It's good to see you're awake, Anko-san. I'm sorry for having to be so rough, but things were starting to escalate in our little game, and someone was going to end up getting injured if I didn't do something. Naruto said, gaining Anko's attention. As soon as Anko noticed Naruto and remembered what happened, she jumped to her feet and into a defensive position. You? Oh, I'm going to have so much fun making you pay for that cheap shot. Said Anko menacingly as she began to reach for another kunai. Hold on babe, Naruto said, holding up his hands as he sat on his stump. Apparently calling a woman babe as she holds a very sharp object is not a good idea because as soon as the words left Naruto's mouth, he found Anko's kunai stuck into his stump less than an inch right in front of his crotch. I mean Anko-san, said Naruto with a raised eyebrow as he looked at the kunai between his legs. Anko just smirked sadistically at his reaction. Do you mind telling me though why you attacked me, said Naruto regaining his composure. I wouldn't really call it an attack, but more like trying to teach you a lesson not to steal from my friends. Said Anko half lightly half threatening. Hey Kaiju-chan, did I steal anything recently? Naruto asked mentally. Not that I can think of, Naru-kun. Replied Kyuubi. I think you must be mistaken, Anko-san, for I have not stolen anything I can think of. What are you even accusing me of stealing? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Don't play dumb with me, chicken shit. You know damn well what you stole. Do you think it's funny to steal my friend's most precious possession? Do you get your kicks watching a grown woman break down when she finds that coat gone? You villagers disgust me, always messing with Kurani by trying to steal the one object she treasures. Now you better give it back like a good little boy or I'm going to make sure you cease to be one. Anko says angrily as she pulls out another kunai. Damn, she has a lot of these things. Now hold on just a sec. Are you talking about my coat? Cause I can tell you right now that I did not steal it from Kurani. She gave it to me. Naruto replied, a little irritated at being accused of stealing his own coat by some woman he has never met before. Like hell she would just give you that coat. I can tell you for a fact that she can't even sleep without that thing. Now fess up and hand over the coat and I won't hurt you too bad. I already told you, lady, I did not steal this coat. It's mine and if you don't stop accusing me of stealing it, I'm going to have to kick your ass. I don't give a shit if you're a chick. As a kunoichi of this village I will deal with you as I would any shinobi. If you don't believe me, go ask Kurani herself. She'll tell you the same thing I said. Naruto said, getting severely pissed off. Normally Naruto would be able to keep his cool and not let things like this get to him, but over time he has begun to get a little irritable due to not being able to release his darker personality. Fine, but you're coming with me. I'm not going to give you the chance to make off with that coat when I leave you alone. Anko said as she grabbed Naruto by the sleeve and began to drag him out of the forest. After about 10 minutes of walking along, being pulled by his sleeve by Anko, Naruto got fed up. That's it, I'm tired of you dragging me through this forest. If you do not release me this instant you are going to lose that arm. It will be much easier if you just allow each of us to run there. I promise not to run off, but when you find out I was telling you the truth, I expect a full apology. Naruto said, reverting to his Batausai persona for the first time in over a year, but then just as quickly, he changed back and got his emotions under control. As soon as Naruto made the change in personality, Anko immediately released him. She could almost see her death before her eyes. However, as soon as Naruto got back in control of himself, Anko regained her composure. Fine, we can run, but I'll be keeping an eye on you, Anko threatened. By the time the two of them reached Kurani's apartment, Naruto had calmed down a good deal. He had tried looking at things from Anko's perspective and he had to concede that she was just trying to look out for her friend. However, she could have shown a little more tact in dealing with the situation. As Anko knocked on the door, Naruto stood off to the side relaxing, knowing that this whole mess would be cleared up as soon as Kurani set her friend straight and he would be able to get back to training. The two only had to wait a few seconds before they could hear Kurani shouting, "Who is it?" from inside. Anko just replied that it was her and not bothering to let her know that she brought someone with her.